Hey, Hawks. It's going. It's going. Got 3D going yesterday. You can believe it. I'm just setting up here. Yeah, I discovered the magic of the third dimension. That's right. One second. Something is up with my machine. Hang on. The project I'm working on now, it's the same game. I'm doing it in C. That's all. And then yesterday we got CSS 3D in CSS only, vanilla CSS. So it's kind of like 2.5D, but yeah, that's what I'm working on. One sec, BRB. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I think there's some clips on my Twitch channel. There's like 2 or 3 clips from yesterday when we got that working. You should check them out. They're funny. Yeah, pretty funny. Okay. I think we're good now. Ugh. All right. Well, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. I've screwed it all up, haven't I? No, I guess I haven't. All right. Cool. So what am I doing today? I've got battle mechanics to work out. So I'm going to move this off to the side. So I've been writing some functions on battle mechanics. Well, no, on ships and fleets, and then that's going to lead into battle mechanics. Hey, Pure, how's it going? Good to see you. You know what? I'm going to get the stupid ads done on Twitch, on the Twitch side, so I'm just going to run the frickin' 3 minutes, and then that gives us like a solid hour of no ads on Twitch. So I'm just going to run them. Sorry to people who aren't subbed. Let's just get them out of the way, okay? Because like I would turn them off, but I can't. Bezos needs his money. So let me just run that. I know everybody else on other platforms doesn't see this, so I'll just keep going, but so I don't know if you have said since the C rewrite, what is the plan for boat chess in terms of Twitch and stuff? It's gonna be a very, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be very similar. The way that we did it before, because ultimately the only thing that's really changing is what's powering WebAssembly, but like all the WebSocket stuff, that's all external to see. So I'm gonna bring that back in at some point here. Once I get the battle mechanics done, I'm gonna bring back in the interactivity with all the WebSockets. But I kind of okay. I would kind of want to change something, Arvis, but I'm gonna save it for after the Twitch ads are done. I don't know if Pure on the Twitch side can still hear me, or if she's getting ads. But yes, this is the third day in a row I'm streaming, and yes, you are getting spoiled. You're all lucky. You're lucky to have me grace your screens. So lucky. You should all be praying to whatever God you believe in. And if you don't believe in any gods at all, pray to them anyways. And tell them how grateful you are that I am penetrating you through screens. Okay? Ads are almost done on Twitch. Wondering if you're still shooting for the multiplayer stuff or saving it for later, or if you dropped. I'm gonna do the multiplayer stuff. I'm saving it for later, but I'm gonna do it very differently. Hey, Laugh. Oh, pray to your God. Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay. I think the Twitch ads are done. So, are we ready for? I'm gonna begin the spicy takes. So the last time I did multiplayer with this game, if it was in Zig, and if you remember, we had things in here where, let's say somebody like on Twitch raided us, and it would spawn one of these Krakens, and their HP would be equivalent to the number of viewers from their raid. And then you could go to a website where you could log in with your Twitch account. You'd have your instance of the game, but through WebSockets and a central server, up to 5 people could play against each other, and they would have a ship, which I'll bring back, I think probably this stream, and then you could attack each other and kill the Kraken. So that was kind of like that's like the 5-second overview of the multiplayer. The central server that was running it, it was running off of Elixir. And that's Elixir and like what was it, LiveView, Phoenix LiveView, something like that. I have since come to not like functional programming even more than I previously didn't like it. And as much as it's extremely performant, I can't deny that. It's pretty stupid to me if you think that mathematical principles can be exactly mapped to applied aspects of programming. The mathematical principles have their place, and we need them. But to take that and say we're going to make everything a mathematical principle, therefore functional programming, and pretend like it maps onto exactly what's going on in your hardware, and then saying, look at how good we are. Pretty fucking stupid. It's pretty fucking stupid. It has a place and there are things to learn from it, but I just don't agree with like the wide sweeping, we're going to do everything this way. That's where I draw the line. So I have to swap out that server. Yeah, ban Shreyas. I just kind of ignore Shreyas now. It's really easy. Shreyas is like that chick, you know, that really hot chick. She, you know, she's hot, but she talks too much. And she says stupid things, and so your man brain just kind of like turns her off. So whenever she's talking, you're looking at her and taking in the visual appeal, but your brain, all your brain, your ears here is yeah, that's Shreyas, except he's not even hot, so it's actually easier to tune him out. Prattle Queen, yeah. Just prattle. Shreyas just prattles. Anyway, so I have to swap that out. But Arvis, to answer your question directly, it will come back. I think the battle mechanic is, yeah, spicy tonight. Yeah, fuck it. We're going all out. The battle, once the battle mechanics are sorted out. So that's what I need to work on right now. So I need to get my ships sorted out, which I think I already have. And then I just have to do like a kind of like a state machine sort of for each step in the battle. And then I need to bring in at least 2 ships, ideally more. Ideally it could be like a lot of ships. And then it should step through the battle mechanics. And I think I already have. I think I took notes. Yeah, I have the battle mechanics somewhat thought out already, so this should be adequate to get us by. So hopefully that means we've got a few ships back on the screen today firing at each other, and yeah, we'll see what happens. And then when the ships are functional and they're battling each other, I guess the other thing that's going to be different in this version is that this version is going to have turn-based mechanics. It's not going to be real-time mechanics for the battle. So everybody has to take a turn. That's going to be the default mode, because that's what I want my game to be. I never intended it to be real-time. I think we've proven on the Zig and the Odin version that we can do real time if we want, but I would say that turn-based should be our default mode, and real time should be a special mode we do on top. I think we went the wrong direction. That's mostly on me because I get nerd sniped with morons. Me being one of them. So to that end, I need to tackle a few things, and then I know that Pure has a unhinged rant locked and loaded, which I have locked and loaded. I actually have a 2-for-1. I've got a 2-for-1 today because the State of JS came out. The State of JS survey. The circle jerking is incomprehensibly high. It's mind-boggling, the circle jerking that's happening in JS framework library land. Holy shit. Holy shit. So I will, that's the 2-for-1. No, you did. So Pure calls it in right now. What you want me to do now? There's a state of JS. I thought it was like a superposition. It's not. It's not a superposition. It's not even a position. It's not even a singular position. You know why? Because in order for something to have a superposition, it must exist as a thing. You cannot have a superposition on a non-existent entity. Your mom is a superposition. You know what, Shreyas? You redeemed yourself. You redeemed yourself with that one. Well done. A good well-placed mom joke redeems Shreyas, says the narrator. You want me? Okay, so Pure, it's your call. Do you want me to do unhinged rant right now? I'll do it right now. Or do you want to wait? It's up to you, Pure. Because I know you've got a kid in tow, so if you can't pay attention, I get it. Okay, yeah, all right. You need a good rant? All right, here we go. Listen, folks. Listen here, all you pieces of shit who think that their abstractions and their frameworks and their libraries are the end-all be-all to everything that is good and holy in the programming world. We're fucked. We are straight fucked. Programming is fucked. And it's all you motherfuckers' fault. All of you. Every single one of you watching. Okay? Every single one of you watching. Except maybe like 5 of you. I can probably point to 5 of you whose fault it is not. But the rest of you motherfuckers are all so fucking stupid, you can't even tell what the fuck is happening. That's why you have imposter syndrome. Because your brain realizes that you're a motherfucker, but some part of your brain is like, nah, I'm not really that much of a motherfucker. And another part of your brain is like, nah, bro, you're a really big motherfucker. What the hell are you doing coding? And the other part of your brain is like, nah, coding's easy, right? I know what I'm doing. That's imposter syndrome. This is what's going on. We have, let me just make sure I got this pulled up correctly. Here we go. We have the state of JavaScript, the survey. This happens, what, once a year, I think? Maybe twice a year? Why do I feel like it happened twice this year? I don't remember. Anyways, so we have the state of JavaScript. All right. Is it once a year? Thank you, Shreyas. I believe it. And just so you know, I'm being somewhat hyperbolic here, okay? So I'm ranting because it is fun to rant. Although there is a kernel of truth in what I'm saying. So essentially it's exactly what you would expect it to be. It asks a bunch of questions about how users of JavaScript feel about JavaScript. So you've got libraries with sentiment, used it, heard of it, never heard of it, will use it again, etc., etc. So as an example, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. 43% of respondents answered used it and had a positive sentiment for React. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that the survey goes over. Great. And you can see that, let's just take a look at this even. The sentiment for React, 43%, okay. Used it and had a positive sentiment, okay. How about Vite? Used it and had a positive sentiment, 51%. That's even bigger than React if you think about it. Now, this might depend on respondents, although respondents seem to be about the same. So, great. It seems like people have good choices, I guess, in the JavaScript ecosystem, right? So you go through this, and let's say other tools. Let's go over here, and libraries being regularly used. Lodash, 43% of respondents said that, right? 3JS for graphics and animations. That's a no-brainer. Backend frameworks. Express, whopping 68%, right? JavaScript runtimes. Node, browser at 83%, and then Bun comes in way lower, right? JavaScript Edge serverless. So you've got AWS Lambda as the biggest thing, and then Vercel next. Theo mentioned. Python, PHP, Java as non-JavaScript languages, Python being the biggest one. PHP the next one, right? Let's just have a quick look. C, C++ is at 10%. Bash is double the usage of C, C++. Only Go is like right next there. Rust, I would have pictured Rust having more usage than Go, but apparently not. We've got Kotlin, Ruby, Swift, Elixir, Objective-C, how about AI? ChatGPT, 67%. Copilot, 50%, right? How about hosting services, AWS? So when you look at, let's say here, when you look at some of these, what would you call them? Statistics, I guess, or survey results. Look at how many people are using TypeScript. 67% of respondents stated they write more TypeScript than JavaScript code, while the single largest group consisted of people who only write TypeScript. This is like, look, from my perspective, from my worldview, the fact that the single biggest group only writes TypeScript is such a huge red flag, because it means there's a huge group of people who need training wheels to write the little bit scared to write JavaScript without the little typies, with the little typies. Yeah, I know you disagree, Sherris. I just don't care. You're wrong. The compiled code balance. It should come as no surprise. This is fucking insane. It should come as no surprise that in 2024, almost all our JavaScript code goes through a build step. While bundlers and build tools certainly add complexity to our development process, they're most likely here to stay. 54% of respondents out of 5,927 said that they use 100% compiled code for JavaScript. What? AI code generation. Not that high. Not that high. So not really, not really anything. Usage professionally. Okay, sure. The use case. So it's no surprise front-end development is like 98% said they use it for front-end development. That's fine. Yo, Mike. These stats mean nothing? Hang on. These stats mean nothing? They mean nothing? They're meaningless? I'm just not even gonna respond to that. That's brain dead thinking there. Where do you use it for? Cool. Application pattern, single page apps. Yeah. Cool. JavaScript pain points. Code architecture being one of the biggest pain points. Right? Code architecture is always a concern once a code base gets past a certain size. So, of course, right? That's, and this makes particular sense when you're in JavaScript land, because JavaScript land is heavily compiled these days, and large part of that compilation is pulling in 1,000 different libraries or frameworks, and so it can get out of hand. And then you build abstractions on top of that, and it can get out of hand. And that, so it's not like code architecture is not an issue in any other language. It's an issue in almost every language. I'm just saying that in JavaScript, it has a particularly unique place in terms of why it's an issue. State management, managing dependencies, build tools, performance, debugging. Yeah. So one thing that I notice here is that like the top 5 problems are actually like, they're not low in terms of their percentage. They're actually quite high. A lot of people in this surveyed it as like a problem. So you have code architecture, state management, managing dependencies, which kind of feeds into code architecture, build tools, which kind of feeds into code architecture and managing dependencies, and then performance and debugging. And the numbers are not like low. It's not like only 2%. It's like, no, a lot of people actually like care. It bothers them. That's a pain point. So on the one hand, this is where this is like I did pre-read this, right? So I'm going through it in a particular way. On the one hand, you have people who here, let me duplicate, and let's go libraries, right? And then we'll go library sentiment. So on the one hand, you're going to have something like this where it's like, holy crap, React has a huge positive sentiment, Vite has a huge positive sentiment. Hey, that's great. Aren't JS libraries getting better? Then you start reading stats, well, not stats, but like, you know, survey results like this, and the people who would respond with a high positive sentiment on these libraries are also responding a high negative pain point sentiment on the things that the libraries enforce you to do. So it's like, I like using the library, but I don't like the pain point that comes along with using it. No wonder people have imposter syndrome, because they actually cannot square these two things. I enjoy using the thing that gives me pain to use. And that's about as deep as they think about it. And then if we keep going, sure, new proposals, missing features. Everybody loves their typing because, oh, we need our guardrails because we don't know how to properly code. We need things to make sure we don't use improper typing. Blah 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 blah. Type. And then we run into this. Now, from 2020 to 2024, what's going on with a state of happiness that it hasn't changed? Is this bad data? Because I don't understand this. I thought JavaScript libraries and frameworks and whatnot were meant to like make things better. You would think that the happiness data here would be very different. Now, what tells me that maybe this is bad data is because it's exactly the same number every single year. 2.8, 2.8, 2.8, 2.8. So maybe it's bad data. So you know what I did? I'm like, okay, what's this button up here? What's this one? What's this? I'm like, huh. Well, if it is, let's assume it's bad data. Let's assume it's bad data. Maybe the comments for this survey will give us some indication of how happy developers themselves are with web technologies. Not even happy about the state of JavaScript. Just FYI. I'm just going to silently let you read these. I think it speaks for itself. Finally, we have one semi-positive about just general web development, not even the state of JS. Truly, React should not exist. Oh, we're going to go through every one of these. Oh, we're going to sit and read every single one of these. Hey, Imperius, stop spamming that shit or I'm going to ban you. Better than the days of IE tables and floats. We have now gone through all 46 comments. Even if the data is wrong on the state of happiness, the comments themselves say everything you need to know. And before I get into why the state of just the tech industry in general, I think you can derive from web technology or the state of web, the state of technology in general. I'll say why in a second. Okay, hang on. Let me move on to the next one. A Restream bot is me. It's because I use Restream and it streams to multiple places, so it pulls in chats from multiple places. Here's JavaScript happiness, which does actually have, it seems like it has some real data. Now, this is what this here gives me an indication that the data here is okay. 2.9 in 2020, 2.8, 2.8, 2.8, 2.8. Okay. This is the biggest source of dread I have with anything related to programming. I wish for React to die. JS is good, fuck TypeScript and its inventors. And it just keeps going and 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 going. Here's the deal. Okay, listen. I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. All right. Here's what's going on. Back in, like, let's say the 80s or the 90s, okay? We'll take a good portion of the 90s. But let's go back to like 70s, 80s, 90s. Computer hardware was not the same as it is today. No shit. Like, of course it was not the same. There were far more limitations. And I think for most of my audience, an easy way to demonstrate that would be to look at what people had to do in the video game world back in, let's say, late 80s, early 90s versus video game world today. Hardware today has opened up the door to a lot more. Obviously, hardware back then was not the same. It was very limited, okay? So what, by necessity, what happens? Programmers who work in limited hardware have requirements that at the time felt just as crazy as the regular Joe Blow who works at any company, at any tech company today. So today you might get requirements from an executive or project manager or whatever, and you're like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? Well, you have to admit that programmers back in, let's say, late 80s, early 90s also felt the same way. Imagine working for Nintendo. You have, just as an example, you have Nintendo's backlog of video games that they produced at a certain quality. Nintendo existed and was a juggernaut at the time because of what it produced and how it produced it and what went into the games and the polish and the mechanics and all of these things. And you go and work for a company like that. But even if you went and worked somewhere else in tech, it doesn't have to be video game industry, but it's one that I feel like we can most relate with because we've all played a video game at some point, right? You're a programmer who has to, you walk into a new game with that baggage, which is a loaded term these days. Baggage can be negative, but it doesn't have to be. It's all that stuff in the past that you then have to make sure that you meet, and probably you have to exceed, because who on earth at Nintendo is going to say, let's just make the same level of quality of game now as we've ever done? Of course not. You're going to walk in and you're going to have the hardware you have at that day in the given time period, and you're going to be asked to do even more. Imagine that I time traveled you back to that day, and you had only what you had, and you had to work with that, and you had to build the games that were built at that time. But you were being asked to do the things that we're asked to do today. It would seem insurmountable. Despite this, programmers back then still found a way to cleverly and creatively maximize just about every square inch of their hardware, given the same feelings of constraints that everyone subjectively has today. How the hell did they pull that off? Because back in those days, you actually had to know your hardware. A programmer who was going to sit down and write any amount of code that shifted bits around or wrote functions that went from one place to another or blitted pixels on screen actually had to understand where they were retrieving their data from, how they were storing it, how they were maintaining it, and how they were shipping it to another piece of hardware to do something else subsequently. You have a generation of people, maybe 2 generations, maybe more, who function this way. And then the late 90s, early 2000s come around. And the web takes off. It becomes far more popular than ever. The web begins by having to import, in its infancy, the people who come from the world we just talked about. So inherently, the web has to import and adopt these programmers who have this ingrained knowledge of like, hey, my code has an impact on my hardware. And they come into that in web. So when somebody's building a website, if they're doing like their first website, they probably know something about computers. They've probably worked with them before, and they've probably done some kind of programming in some other field where they have had to understand the fundamentals, and they've had to work out some really restrictive but clever ways to maximally use everything they had at their fingertips. But man, the web is like, it's like a whole new world. You can do anything you want on the web now, especially because of its distributed nature. What happens is, as the web takes off, businesses start taking off too, and businesses are mostly beginning to operate no longer purely on just purchase this piece of physical hardware and we'll give you whatever it is that you need. Like you'll get some kind of like feature set or whatever. They can actually run off of a website now. Now they can make money off of a website. So if you think about something like even like eBay or early Craigslist or things like that, these are mostly like website driven businesses that make a killing. Maybe you could say maybe PayPal. Like I'm sure there are others that that you can think of that I haven't mentioned. And it starts to become a business. When you start making money that way, inevitably you have demand. You have users who demand that they have particular sets of features. They might also demand performance, maybe not. But essentially it's like, hey, I want to use your website, but I would like to be able to do X, Y, and Z on the website. In the early days, you had a pool of people who had fundamental awareness of what the hell was going on under the hood of the things they were building. So anytime that a website needed to have this complicated feature, programmers who came from the hardware world, which was kind of like the only world that existed before the web pretty much, could come in and say, I got this. It's actually easier on the web because I have much more flexibility. I don't have to care as much, but even as I'm writing my HTML or my JavaScript or my CSS or whatever it is I'm using, or even like Perl, Perl was big back in the day, even like early times PHP, I still understand that like, hey, I'm not really doing the best thing here, but I understand that I'm not doing the best thing and I know how to work my way around it. And everybody kind of catered their requirements, their demands and requirements to what was available at the time, and you had the ability to have people who are knowledgeable to execute on pretty much all of those things. Unfortunately, the web is basically the path of least resistance in the entire IT industry. If you want to make the most brain dead, fucking retarded piece of shit, monstrosity, shitty shit, library, framework, language, function, single line variable, that's just the stupidest shit you've ever shitted ever, you can do it on the web, and pretty much no one will bat an eye. When these developers who start getting older start retiring on large sums of money, that knowledge pool starts to go away. But the business is still there. And the demand from consumers is also still there. And they're saying, we still want our websites to do X, Y, and Z so that we can do X, Y, and Z. But the businesses themselves no longer have that talent pool. And as some of them begin to realize that that talent pool is shrinking, especially when compared to bringing in new programmers who are dedicated or have learned only for the web and nothing else, you start to see the disparity. So what do? If you're smart, you think a little bit ahead and you go, listen, Mr. Knowledgeable Programmer who's been around for a long time and actually knows what's going on here. What we would like for you to do is to cater to the lowest common denominator of programmers so that I, as an executive, get business value because I can hire Joe Blow off the street or a fresh boot camp person. Boot camps weren't around at the time, but you could say grad, university student, whatever it is. I can hire somebody who's just kind of like coming off the learning train and into professional train. And I want them to be able to do what you do because you're going to be gone soon. And that knowledge that's in your head, we need it. And I'm not just saying this as like this is kind of like a gut feel. I think this is what happened. No, I've been in the fucking room where this discussion took place. Where the one person in the entire company who actually knew what the shit they were doing needed to offload their brain. We actually use that term. We need to offload your brain so that other people can keep up with you, so that we can actually keep this business running. And in some cases, some programmers didn't give a shit. They just wanted to get their money and leave. And in other cases, some of those programmers really cared about the company, maybe because they were in on the ground floor and they had skin in the game and it was their investment, nest egg, and so on and so forth. And so they thought, well, this is a good opportunity for me to ensure that this company keeps going because it means good money for me. So I'm going to acquiesce to this request. What does that mean? It means that these guys would come up with frameworks, libraries, and nowadays, new languages. And the intent was, hey, I want all the other programmers in the company to understand that whatever this one guy builds, you all better take as gospel from God himself. You're to worship at the altar of whatever is created. Because if you don't, you're going to fuck up the company. Because you're going to produce really bad code by comparison. So you have someone who is not arguably very intelligent, who has a lot of knowledge, who can do any number of things that you put him to do. He creates something that caters to people who don't know what they're doing. And the web is the easiest place to introduce these paradigms. That's fine at the beginning. Then what happens is that kind of mindset, because it worked at the start and it made businesses be able to run for a few more years on good software created by someone who gave a shit and wrote something good, then businesses went, holy crap, let's keep doing this. But now there's a problem because you're at a section of the industry where you're building on top of something that someone else has already built on top of, but you don't even know what the fuck it's doing in the first place. So then you go, don't worry, I got this. I'm just going to build another abstraction. And it's going to cater to the next generation of programmers who know even less. And eventually you become so far removed from what's actually going on in the natural world of the hardware running everything underneath that you get this bullshit. Where the people who make the claim that JavaScript has never been better, we have so many good things, chill out, bro, why are you complaining about JavaScript and or similar languages, which I'll get to in a second, not necessarily, like, I mean, I'm talking about like a language to language, not a library framework to library framework. Why? It's because of this, because you don't even realize how fucking unhappy you are or why. You can sit here and on the one hand go, yeah, I love React, I love Vite, I love the way things are going, blah, 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 blah. But then when you go to, but are you actually happy with this? No, the fuck I'm not. Why? Because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. That's why. And that, to me, is the worst offender. JavaScript is the worst offender. You can look at JavaScript as an extreme example, as an indication of what happens in other aspects of the IT industry. For example, Rust for me is an easy one to pick on because it is exactly the same principle. It is run in mass. It is not run by people who are actually knowledgeable about what the fuck they're doing. It's now run by a community of people who think that they're smarter than any particular individual or any other group. And so they make decisions based on that. It's the same thing. It's permeated into lower level back-end languages. You could almost say the same thing about anybody who has a hard line on OOP, clean code, functional languages or functional programming, etc., etc., etc. When you become so dedicated to an abstraction without actually knowing how your abstraction interacts with the natural reality of the motherfucking world in the hardware underneath your stupid ass abstraction, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And the sad part is, I think most people actually have the brain power, given just 5 minutes, would have the brain power to actually understand at a much deeper level what's going on with the thing that they're using so that we could potentially increase the quality of the stuff we're using. But most people don't want to do that. Do you know why? Because it's hard work. And you know it is. You know it's hard work. And people self-ID. What, bro? You want us to go back to assembly? Oh, wait. Are you just saying you don't want to do hard work because assembly is hard work? You're just self-IDing as a lazy motherfucking asshole who doesn't care about ruining the industry for yourself and for everybody around you. Because you don't care enough to go deeper and think beyond whatever paradigm you've been taught to actually understand what's going on. Is it hard? Yeah, it is. And to this day, after some 25 odd years of doing this, for me to stand here or sit here right now and say that like I should be, like you should look up to me as like somebody who knows what they're talking about. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. The more I look into these things, the more I realize I really don't know what I'm talking about. Only in the last 2 years have I truly learned anything meaningful about CPU architecture. That's an embarrassing thing to say. But at least I'm willing to say it. A lot of people are not, because they're afraid of the hard work that comes involved with understanding that they are not happy. They are not happy with the shit they're using. And I think the web is the leading indicator. It's the canary in the mine. It's the thing that stands out as, if this is how things are in the web as the path of least resistance, then you can determine what the rest of the industry is going to be like if it's not already there. And I would argue it's already headed there. We've already seen it. Then you add in all the scientific research that I've done in previous live streams where I've gone over if things are getting so much better in the IT industry as a general, and we have better tools, better languages, better this, better that, why do we have cybersecurity as the third largest economy in the whole fucking world, next to only the US and China? Why do we have security vulnerabilities that are almost exponentially increasing year over motherfucking year? Why do we have pages that are bigger than super complicated, massive games from the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis or Game Boy era? To load what? To do what? We have people who are writing 100% TypeScript, and we still have these problems. So this whole thing is indicative of, to me, that people do not actually give a shit. They're afraid of hard work, and they're afraid of truly understanding what's going on when they're using these things. And these kinds of surveys, while they might not be necessarily statistical in nature, they do indicate a trend. And the trend is JavaScript developers don't really have a choice. They're suffering from Stockholm syndrome, but actually they're willing to say that they're unhappy with the thing that has taken them hostage. And they'll just continue to use it. The entire industry is completely captured by this kind of thinking. And people are completely missing it, and in fact excusing it for the most part. And it's I cannot count how many times I've heard anecdotal stories. Yeah, but it worked for me. It worked for my team. It worked for this project. It worked when I did X, Y, and Z. Fine, that's great, but it's a fucking anecdote. I don't care about your fucking anecdotes. You know what I care about? I care about the actual hard reality of the hardware that everybody has at their fingertips that we seem to just be abstracting over, not giving a shit about how much it actually costs, because all we care about is how much it doesn't cost. It's really easy to look at a chart and go, well, it doesn't cost us anything to abstract at this area, and then just ignore all the costs at this area. That is what's happened. There you go. You've got the history. I went all the way from the fucking 70s to what was happening in tech in the 70s and why we are where we are today, where there are not enough people in the industry who actually have the knowledge required to understand why these libraries, frameworks, paradigms, these cult-like abstractions in the IT world are fucking all of us over. And it's not just your jobs. It's not just programmers individually, where we can see right now how difficult it is for programmers to get a job to begin with, first of all. Second of all, ask anybody in the VC world. VC funding is not what it used to be. It has taken a turn. It's tanked. It's really bad. You almost can't get VC funding anymore, at least not in the way that you could before. And by the way, I see the raid. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, man. And on top of that, we have the quality of our output is, shit. It's becoming, shittier and shittier. You yourself are affected by all of this as a programmer in the industry. Of course you are. It eats into your paycheck. It eats into your ability to find a job. It eats into your ability to hold a job. It eats into your ability to actually have a, somewhat like quality type, a resume where you can demonstrate that you've actually done something useful, because everything's fucking slop to begin with. So it affects you, but it affects you even more than just you. So on the one hand, you have programmers who actually, it's one of the few industries where you can build the tools that you yourself use. So I want you to think about that. How many industries do you know where the people working in the industry can create tools to help them create things that help them create money, and you can make money off of those tools? It's kind of rare the way that we have ultimate power over our own domain. Are you happy with the tools you're using? Are you happy with your IDEs? Like, do you think that they're like top notch? Do you think that they're the best they're ever going to get? But you're the ones building them. And you're the people who should know how to build your own tools the best. You can't even get that fucking right. So it's affecting you. But I've already been over on my previous live streams, all up on YouTube still for free, how these things impact the real world. How this shitty ass state that we find ourselves in produces scenarios where entire companies can be captured to ransomware because somebody npm installed a piece of fucking shit library and didn't think to double check it, because who has the time to double check 1,324 libraries? And then the entire East Coast shuts down because gas stations can't receive, they're like trucks can't transport gas to the gas stations. Or you have entire ER wards, which has happened. I went over it. Entire ER wards cannot operate. They cannot do emergency life-saving procedures because power is down, because of some fucktard who fucking pulled in some fucking stupid fucking shit and didn't fucking care about the shit that they fucking pulled in. How many people actually died in real life because of that shit? Nobody knows. It's actually an unquantifiable number, because you don't know the tertiary and so on effects of the shit we're doing in the industry. That's why we have a cybersecurity industry that's so massive, huge. That's why we have entire tools and frameworks and build systems that are set up as guardrails for this stupidity. We know how stupid we are because we build our own guardrails for our own stupidity. That's what surveys like this show me. It is the stupidest fucking shit in the whole world. We have completely fucked over so many opportunities that we have in the tech industry, and we don't even know it. We don't even know the fucking half of it. And so I come on and I go over the statistics, and I go over doing things like what I'm doing, right? Just doing like the most bonkers, insane shit. Hey, let's build a video game, but let's not just build a video game. Everybody says DOM is slow and you can't use browsers properly and blah, 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 blah. And JavaScript is terrible and we have to TypeScript, JavaScript, everything. And you have to you can't use anything but like Rust for memory safety and functional programming for everything and OOP only. And so I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I will take the time, and I will come on, and I'll build a video game. I'm going to write it in C. I'm going to compile it to WebAssembly. I'm going to run it on the browser. I'm not going to use GPU acceleration. I'm going to strictly use DOM elements, vanilla JavaScript, vanilla CSS, one big fat ass C file, no pointers, no structs, flat arrays everywhere, manual memory management to the hilt. I even had to rebuild some of my own standard library. I can do this, and I'm a fucking moron. I want you to think about this. I did not graduate high school. I left high school when I was 17. Some of you have come out of university with degrees. So by comparison, I am a fucking moron, and I'm still doing this and pulling it off, and it's still fun to do, and it's still doable, and it's still super motherfucking fast. We even did CSS 3D just for the fucksies of it. So I'm sorry if I don't have any sympathy for people who think that they can excuse the current state of the industry when high school motherfucking dropout here can build shit like this, handicap himself, so to speak, basically handcuff myself so that I don't have to use all the things that we take for granted these days, trying to prove it, and I still get pushback. I still get people who think that JavaScript is okay, there's nothing wrong with it, things have never been better, it's all good, man, who the fuck cares? I get people on X, I love this, who are like, just ship it. Just ship it. I call them ship it bros. If you haven't shipped anything, what are you doing? Just ship it, it doesn't matter, you'll fix it later. Yeah, the fuck you are. No, you're not. I get business value bros. I've had lots of those. Oh, but I wouldn't want to hire you because you're standing in the way of the business having value. Wait, the last time I checked, a business that relies on technology would want good motherfucking technology to make money and provide further value to their end consumers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm entirely a tech company, the value to my end consumers is the performance and quality of the features I produce, not the quantity of them or the internal assignment of whatever the feature value is internally to my company. What the fuck kind of thinking is this? But this is the thinking. This is what we're doing in the industry. It's bullshit. And there are so many different reasons for it, but fundamentally, I just think people just don't even know where to look. They're so overwhelmed. There are definitely some people out there. I 100% believe that there are people out there who do care, but wouldn't even know where to start looking. Because you jump on a lot of, let's say, tech influencer streams, not all of them. There are a few that stand out. Chris, for example, I'll give him a shout out. Travis, there's a few people in chat right now. I'm not looking at chat. I'm just going on a rant. I don't even fucking care what you guys are chatting about. But there are a few people who I would exclude from this, okay? But most tech influencers, I'm going to go ahead and say most, do not actually care about this. Or if they do care, they're not set up. They're not poised. They're not in a position to help you figure out where you even begin to look to understand why these things are fundamentally wrong and how you make them right. Instead, a lot of the things you find online are mostly self-serving, mostly, again, with exceptions. Because of course, if you're in front of a camera, a lot of people are going to care about how many views they have, whether they're talking about a topic that people care about, how spicy or cold is their take, etc., etc., etc. Of course, that makes perfect sense. I get why. It just comes with the territory. But if you actually give a shit about the industry you're working in, I would hope that we would find more than just some people online pointing to the problems that we have. And the reason why I think this is so important, not only because it has a negative consequence on our lives and on the lives of people you love, but it also because of what we're leaving at the table. Because if you look at the things that we could accomplish, if we actually cared enough to take some time from programmer all the way up to business executive, not only would we find that we're leaving a lot of money on the table, if you're someone who cares about just ship it for the money, business value for the money, etc., which is completely understandable as well. I get it. Businesses have to make money. I need the businesses I work for to make money so that I can have a paycheck to pay for my family. I completely understand that. What I'm saying is, what kind of money are we leaving on the table? Because we're leaving quality and knowledge there. What kind of world would the tech world, at the very least, if not related worlds that depend on tech, what kind of world would it look like if we just took a hot minute and just went, holy fuck, what the fuck are we doing? Now, to drive this home, I'm not even fucking done yet. So, let's see if I can pull this up properly. Okay, one sec. Let me set this up proper. If I go over here and then I go, I'm going to go like this. I think this will work. So let me pull this off. I'm going to go over to YouTube. And then I'm going to go over the video here. So it would be, where is it? Let me find the video, folks. 1 second. Okay. I think I found it. Here we go. shout out to Threat Interactive. Okay, so what these guys are doing is they're basically going like full autist mode, like just complete autism. And in the video previous to this, here I'll link it. I'll drop a link in chat somewhere. You guys need to check them out. Where would I drop it? Okay, here. Okay, check them out. So we're gonna go over this particular video because in a previous video, they literally went over all the different ways down to like, it's like a quantum level overview of what Unreal Engine should be able to do and how things looked in the past in terms of like video games and you know, like the way that things, like the capabilities and so on, versus what's happening today with all the guardrails that you have, all the abstractions that you have, all the you know, the mechanisms that you have to accomplish kind of like the same thing, like kind of like a cookie cutter your way through code, etc. with all of these things, right? They went through an insane amount of detail. It is banger. And what do they get? They get crazy pushback after they literally break down and prove through objective measurements and studying of what's going on under the hood with Unreal Engine and what should be going on. They got pushback, insane pushback. We're gonna watch this. I don't normally do React content because I think it's usually like low tier, like you're just reacting, like just come up with your own content and do it. But just in this particular case, I want attention for them because they are doing a bang up job, and it directly correlates to this unhinged rant I'm going on right now. Okay, hang on. That's what I was trying to test. Okay, let's try it one more time here. I think I got it now.
A recent video credited Unreal's Megalights for an 8 times on average performance increase over traditional rendering. I quickly had my studio comment from our channel to warn viewers that if the traditional rendering side was properly optimized, you could get 3 times better performance in the Megalight scenario with very little visual loss. The complacent population of the Unreal developer community challenged my statement, and with the testing creator support, I will show you how I delivered on the promised performance using no baking or upscaling. Then I'll show you where the true bottlenecks are present in Unreal to show you where even more reasonable and substantial performance can be obtained to elevate consumer experience. I'm also going to expose the abusive mindsets a large population of the developer community has taken with consumers.
Just one sec. I just noticed Zyfarian. Thank you for the sub at tier 1, man. I appreciate that. Especially me going on a crazy rant. I appreciate it, man. We're okay. Back to this.
I will also explain why this channel is being attacked, but only in the form of baseless rhetoric. Before I get started, I need you to hit that subscribe button because we are officially under confirmed censorship in the Unreal Engine subreddit, whose users are in desperate need of this channel's content. So let's go over how I optimized this project. Now, one user made a ridiculous request that I should show off 4K at 150 FPS because the original video showed off 4K 50 FPS. Well, I can do 4K, but the user in the video obviously had very high-end hardware to reach anywhere near 50 FPS. On our test hardware, which is similar enough to the target hardware we defined in our last video, at 4K only gets 13 FPS. This is on the high preset, which is Epic Games' suggested 60 FPS engine settings combined with the project's default configuration. Now, I experienced crashes with Megalights on, and I felt like the performance was this bad already, I didn't even want to record the performance without Megalights like the original video because it probably would have crashed my entire computer system. So I decided to fix performance in other areas first. I changed out the anti-aliasing, which freed up about 7 milliseconds to only around 0.40 to 0.60 milliseconds. The resolution in combination with some TAA tweaks ended up giving less blurry results in motion. Then I removed the outside contents due to poor nanite management and wanted to focus on the scene that was shown in the original video. but the outside content has over 100 shadow casting lights with enormous range parameters. Keeping these as small as possible helps the traditional pipeline properly disable or cull lights when they or their shadow maps are not visible within the camera's view. Almost all of the lights in the project had blown up values, which means when the traditional pipeline was turned back on, over 300 shadow maps were being drawn, not to mention how fast overlapping lights, shadow casting or not, kill performance. So before turning off megalights, I fixed the range on all of the lights, but I wasn't ready to flip the switch off yet. I then scanned the environment for low poly meshes that I could immediately turn nanite off with. I started with a floor, which ended up being multiple pieces. The reason why this is ridiculous is because this could literally be a flat ground utilizing max area topology, and this pattern could just be a repeated texture instead. But if you take an even closer look, you'll find even more anti-performance topology. We're talking example case bad. The problem with Unreal's LODs in terms of quality and efficiency is that it's based on UE's mesh reduction system, which is triangle context limited. As you can see, removing only 14 triangles on this mesh drastically changes it due to ignoring UV context and general topology inefficiencies. I was able to reduce the amount of meshes using nanite significantly, lowering nanite's frame surface area cost. For some, I reduced the triangle quad overdraw via manual LODs, but these meshes, which contain millions of triangles, forced me to leave nanite on. The polycount reduction workflow forces me to guess a target polycount value that can only hopefully reduce overdraw without introducing major geometric errors. When it comes to extremely dense meshes in Unreal, for every guess the user makes, they have to wait several minutes locked from interacting with anything else in the engine until the reduction calculation is complete. This is why Threat Interactive wants to invest in an AI-based mesh reduction tool, or at least a development tool that shows the mesh in a normally lit mode, synchronized side by side with a quad overdraw view mode, for a workflow that goes something like this. Imagine dragging your mouse vertically to push or pull the mesh from the camera's view, and dragging your mouse horizontally to dynamically reduce the poly count on a surface variance, overdraw, and UV aware basis. When a balance is found, the user should just tap a key to save the distance and density LOD preset. But such a logical workflow hasn't been developed for the engine, and time is limited for myself and the thousands of companies using this engine, so users are forced to rely on nanite's cluster streaming. I then removed the unoptimized ultra-dynamic sky actor and replaced it with the editor's default skylighting system.
Hang on, I just want to go back. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's just calling developers lazy and rage baiting. We never called developers lazy in any video. We said lazy and cheap development practices were being done in games. That's because of workflow deficiencies and no market incentive to develop better workflows other than performance-crushing nanite.
Companies using this engine, so users are forced to rely on nanite's cluster streaming. I then removed the unoptimized ultra-dynamic sky actor and replaced it with the editor's default skylighting system. After disabling shadows on several lights that didn't need them, I finally turned off megalights. I switched over to cascaded shadow maps over VSMs to utilize signed distance field shadows. Then I slowed the tracing rate in lumen, increased the bounce light intensity, and lowered the lumen reflection threshold since the tweak didn't subtract from the environment's appearance. Here's a basic view of the original performance and visuals, and here's the promised performance via somewhat proper optimization. Now remember, all the lights are completely dynamic, which leaves room on the table for visual and performance enhancements. Now I want you to subscribe if you believe, as I do, that any missing detail included in the original project will not significantly enhance your immersion if well-designed gameplay is provided even in a realistic-based aesthetic. Both examples are proudly presented in Editor. Abusive developers have often tried to invent.
Now we're gonna read these. Yes, because you clearly know more than an entire team of engine programmers, most of whom have been coding game engines since 1995, which is likely before you were born. LOL. They're so lucky to have someone as inexperienced as you telling them what they need to fix. Of course, completely ignoring the fact that every test you've run has been in Editor and not a single one in a packaged version of the game. Best way to get real-world results. As many people have asked, what are your system specs anyway? Are you sure you meet the minimum requirements to run UE5? How many different system configurations have you run your tests on?
validate the statistical data we've shown on this channel by using this argument. Packaged performance being better is a basic expectation that is responsible for basic GPU performance improvements. The destructive performance data we've shown is more easily accessible in Editor, and packaging your project is not going to magically fix the foundational problems you can detect early in development. And don't even think about sending those videos on YouTube showing the massive performance improvements between the states, since those videos don't address the fact that Unreal changes its internal resolution while in Editor versus Playstate and commonly defaults to upscaling via TAA. The reliance on Nanite is still costing me 2 milliseconds, but the bigger bottleneck is from Lumen. Due to Unreal's console bias management, when Unreal is rendering at native 4K, their engine wastes performance shading other effects at a resolution higher than what's needed for a stable, independent upscale to your native resolution like we saw with Fox Engine's diffuse lighting. I share my name and face for Threat Interactive's initiative because I firmly believe in the performance and quality potential the use case gains we defined in our last video can deliver. In fact, I think the graphics mode in Fortnite, which is the opposite of our use case, has far worse performance than it should. Anyone who watches our videos with the intent of truly listening and watching under the proper recommended compression can clearly see the issues we focus on are legitimate. They are real problems despite the rhetorical slander you'll find about us.
Threat Interactive has a good way of doing that. Pretend you're a pro, throw around buzzwords, then ask for money to fix a non-existent problem. And then there's a bit of history. I've called him out on his behavior a few times, says one chatter. He's going to keep pumping videos. He's got subs now. He'll fade into obscurity in time, as here people realize he can't fix whatever he's complaining about. And then the chatter says either that or he'll get done for scamming.
And unlike other YouTubers who make up problems that don't exist, we are defining genuine problems that every person who cares can clearly see. We have gained such massive support in a small amount of time because we are waking up consumers to issues they didn't even know how to voice or even express.
Every UE5 game I've played recently had this dumb ghosting effect that would drive me crazy. Guess I know why now. I knew I wasn't crazy thinking these new UE5 games look so blurry and don't feel as crisp as old games. I thought I was going crazy. I thought Stalker 2 looked like shit when everyone said it looks great, but this helps my case. Wow, I never knew about all this. I thought I must be going crazy when I upgraded from my old GTX 1080 to a 4070 to play some new titles and couldn't shake the feeling that somehow they felt smeary, noisy, and unclear no matter what settings I would change, and that some older titles actually looked clearer. I could tell the underlying textures and models were better, but somehow the overall image looked worse. Now I know. Cheers. I never knew this was an engine and AA problem. I always thought that my game was just bugged because I couldn't accurately Google it. I first noticed this while playing War Thunder in the hangar, and just moving my plane around fast annoyed me, but then in Jedi Fallen Order, the rest of comment is taken off. You've pointed out so many things I never knew about. Thank you for the work. I thought this was crazy. All this DLLS FSR shit looks like dog shit. Thought I was going crazy until the video, etc., etc.
Express concern over, but deep down inside, they've known all along that something was very wrong. Our videos allow consumers to mass criticize the insane abuse of modern hardware performance and the poor visuals modern games have delivered from a pro-realism stance. When a channel like this one gives consumers so much power, developers who are involved with these abusive game productions are not going to be happy when accurate and informed customer complaints plow through their marketing or game communities, which is why developers will act quickly on slandering our competence, even though many have completely misinterpreted what we've stated in our videos. They will call us grifters because we want to crowdfund for a very well-defined market deficiency for a proven solution. We actually didn't even have a donation portal until viewers requested that we make one after our first video. And we state on our website that we want to show viewers more about us, such as a game, and more solution-based information you can find in the videos we produce. Developer communities will mock us with admin support, who admit they don't even watch our content. So I ask you, who do these people think they are to invalidate our visually based proof and math slides when several of our attackers admit to not even viewing our content? Then there's a specific group of developers who hate us the most. And it's not game designers, the ones that make gameplay. And it's not game animators or technical artists either. It's the graphics programming portion of developers that really hate this channel And unfortunately, it's these same people that the future of graphics is at the mercy of. You see, graphics programmers are the ones that implement effects like bloom, shadow techniques, global illumination, things like nanite and anti-aliasing. They're the ones responsible for the performance optimizations and visual quality we consumers and non-graphic devs get in our games. And we are the only ones who do not tell but show consumers their 5 years plus in development graphics pipeline performing and appearing worse than past implementations. We're the ones who refuse to coddle their unneeded smeary and or noisy graphic designs. Let me show you an example. This graphics programmer for about a year now has been working on a nanite adjacent mesh rendering method in Unity. When asked about our channel, he gave an extremely superficial response, but as usual with these people, I was able to confirm he is of course not even watching our content. He concluded his decision about us by plugging in YouTube's unreliable transcripts of our videos into ChatGPT, which just iterated on core elements he suggested and doesn't even understand the issues with. I'm actually banned from the biggest graphics programming Discord, which you can imagine is not helpful for the development of these videos, for defending consumers who were under constant derogatory mocking, for disliking the smeary garbage the graphic programmers present there defend and promote the abuse of. Now, not all graphic programmers are the problem. We have many who follow our X account, support our Discord, and we have some of the most prolific industry names supporting our topics and calling for the recognitions of the issues we're talking about. Names like Sebastian Altonen, Marty Mods, and Timothy Lotz, who I've had amazing conversations with. He is such a polite person to speak with and shows sincere interest in solving these problems, unlike so many graphic programmers and developers who attack us with meaningless lies. That's why I'm calling for a cultural shift in graphic developer communities, to start focusing on the issues without the ignorant influence of so-called veteran devs who have zero concerns with the issues the gaming industry is confirming they care about. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so to empower that industry confirmation. We have shown hundreds and thousands of people the truth about graphics and optimization to the point of no return. The people who support Threat Interactive will forever know the truth about graphics now, because what we've shown cannot be unseen or argued over in any legitimate shape or form. No one could possibly make a damage control video reversing these people's opinions. Where are the videos from the authorities showing Unreal's various pipeline portions aren't dependent on flawed TA? They don't exist because the undeniable truth has already been shown by us and no one else. The only thing these abusive developers can do is simply deceive consumers, like they did about optimization, or make media that is about totally irrelevant details, such as my mic quality, or trying to use my young appearance in an attempt to invalidate this discussion. Or because Threat Interactive hasn't shown the game we've been working on because I won't allow my art to be slaughtered by the noisy slime of modern graphic pipelines, unlike other complacent studios who have forever tainted their games. I've said controversial statements, such as deprecating cube maps for ray trace reflections. I've stated poor image quality on major systems such as the Series S should be more than expected. I've stated developers should stop wasting time integrating their innovations into dead engines, or dead engines in terms of our target use case we defined, yet we're gaining popularity exponentially with each video because we explain the logic behind our decisions. This is not a conspiracy channel. The problems we're talking about happen due to a capitalist market, and we have a capitalist solution. I care about my game as a developer and the quality of...
Okay, this was a good one, which I think holds true. I'll say something at the end, but while I'm sure all this is true, you highlighted the key problem here, cost. If developers can do things inefficiently, but get the game released quicker, ship it, bro. Particularly the bigger publishers will force them to do it. UE5 seems to be hugely focused on development speed, not efficiency. It's not really about speed, it's all about money. Big gaming studios are not going to invest 5 to 10 times more money into the graphics team to get sharp graphics, because this does not affect sales at all.
Solution. I care about my game as a developer and the quality of my experience with other games as a player. Because my game follows a popular environment format that provides the capitalist solution and proper motivation. People should not dilute our intentions. but instead embrace our financial incentive. This is a special thank you to the hundreds of developers who support our movement and to our current and future subscribers. Share our videos on multiple Discord servers, regardless of the ignorant attacks you might face. Also, share this video on major subreddits as that massively boosts our notoriety.
Okay. So, to be clear, while I do like what these guys are doing, don't just take it from me that these guys, are some, I don't know, don't take my words for what they are. Go check out their videos themselves. And what I'll do is I will grant to anybody who wants to have an argument about whether the Thread Interactive channel and the videos they create have any, like validity in terms of what they're saying. Let's just grant like that in terms of a position of authority, maybe they're not the best position of authority, right? So if you want to do an appeal to authority kind of statement against them, fine. Okay, I get, let's grant that the entire set of arguments. Here is the takeaway for me that I am trying to push out into the ethos. This guy, the team of people around him, because my understanding is that there's a team, it's just he's the face of it. They went through an insane amount of trouble to understand why games look like dog shit when the past 20 years has seen a pretty reasonable advance in hardware. And they went and they proved it. That is the kind of thinking and mentality we need more of. And instead what we have is people who are unwilling or just don't care enough to even attempt to approach the topic in the manner in which they have. And so what do? Well, typically you belong to a club and you're going to protect the club and you're going to devolve into insults. And that's usually the kind of response I get. It's a dismissive or insults kind of way. You just dismiss it outright. Who are you? You're not an authority figure, blah, 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 blah. Like, on what basis do you have to be able to say anything like this? Things like that, right? Now, imagine that somebody did something similar, but for any world in which you find yourself a part of. In the IT industry, they went through that much trouble to create videos to that level of detail about why the specificities in the weeds makes a huge difference in terms of performance and impact. That's what we need more of. And what I'm doing on this stream is my attempt at doing that, which is like, hey, look, I'm doing things in an absolutely crazy bonkers way, but the point is to prove that there is more you can do. We need more of that. That's what we need more of. So disagree or agree with like specific aspects of the video, the channel, the people involved. But that was a great video that is kind of like a one view into the kinds of things that I see all the time, which is when someone gives a real shit, they are dismissed. That's the problem. And they're dismissed for a number of reasons, but they're dismissed. We need to stop doing that. We need to have people who are first willing to approach, willing to counter assumptions that are being made right now in the industry and go into that level of detail. And then we need people to just be just a little bit more open-minded. Just a little bit. Because what's happened is the opposite. What's happened is we've focused too much on the business value now. So that comment, for example, where it's like, it doesn't impact sales, right? Having sharper graphics doesn't impact sales. The fuck it doesn't. Yes, it fucking does. Because the fucking second, the quantum nanosecond that somebody comes out with the exact same fucking game as you, but the graphics are better, people are going to pay more for that. These are short-sighted takes. Well, let's put in the guardrails. Let's put in the abstractions. Let's solve a bunch of or say that we solve a bunch of problems, and cookie cutter let other programmers repeat these solutions. Let's focus on that next exit round. How's our game gonna sell in 2 years? And then we can all sit back and make money off of it. Who the fuck cares about the quality of the graphics? You know, there's a certain acceptable line. Yeah, people fucking care. And customers care. Customers see it. The problem is customers don't have the ability to tell you why you're fucking wrong. Why your website bloat is pure shit. Why your jank ass features where you have those gray square boxes that load in data and somehow you think that's better than whatever we've been doing for the last 20 years, why that doesn't feel right to them. They don't have the ability to tell that to you. So you get to sit there and jerk yourself off and go, I'm a fucking god tier programmer. No, the fuck you're not. We need to get a grip. Because if we don't, then the IT industry is going to go the way of AI. And AI is pure fucking slop because that's all it's trained on. It's trained on mostly slop code, and that's going to become the acceptable standard. And I shouldn't have to tell you what the downwind consequences are if all our jobs actually did get taken, if all the doomers are right, where our jobs got taken by AI slop because nobody gave a shit about the code we're producing in the first place. If you don't fucking care about that enough, fine. But I'm not going to sit quietly and say nothing and do nothing about it. End of rant. I haven't paid attention to chat in a long time, so I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. But that's it. That's the end of my rant. What about industry people that care, like John Blow? His games don't run that much better than the average. At least he cares. And let me tell and Helios, you're right. But let me tell you something. If you ask the common average programmer why their game runs like shit, are they going to be able to give as advanced an answer as John Blow would? Would it even be remotely close? Would it hold a candle to the ability of John Blow or Casey Muratori or John Carmack? Would it even be in the same fucking world, in the same universe, to be able for your common programmer to say, I know why this is bad, versus someone like John Blow? And that's not the worst of it. Here's the worst part of it. Casey Muratori has recently been going on a few streams and podcasts and doing interviews, which is great. He's bringing awareness to a lot of this. So is John Blow. Casey Muratori, for example, went on Prime's podcast and Theo's, and watch the chat. Go back to the video and watch the chat as it goes by while Casey Muratori is explaining deep technical concepts of CPU architecture. For example, something like different architectures having different mechanisms for branch prediction and offloading particular types of calls so that they run, some are ahead of each other. Like, sometimes a variable gets processed before the function that processes the variable, before an if-else statement that's wrapped around the function, things like that because of the nature of the CPU architecture. There's an entire set of things that Casey Muratori, for example, explains. Watch the chat as Casey Muratori very concisely explains what is going on inside CPU architecture and why these things matter. And the chat will just be like, this is hieroglyphs to me. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I agree with him, but I don't know why. Yada, yada, yada. It's like everybody can see it because when somebody who's an expert in the field can actually explain it at a level that's insanely deeply technical, everyone goes, yeah, this guy. And then off they go to write the AI written React motherfucking slop because they don't have a fucking clue. When it's handed, it's literally in your lap. You're sitting there watching a guy who's deeply expert technical in his field deeply explain why the slop code and the abstractions and the guardrails and the stupid shit we do every day, why it matters to the CPU architecture and why it makes your CPU slow, why it makes websites slow, why it makes software slow, why it makes video games slow. You actually have a deep fundamental understanding. A guy who's willing to sit there for 3+ hours and explain it to you, and then you walk away and you go, I have no idea what the fuck he was saying. Off I go to continue doing all the shit I was doing, even though I agree with this guy. That's even worse because we have some people who are willing to say something. We have a whole bunch of people who actually don't give a fuck. So it doesn't matter if John Blow can even explain it better or not, because who the fuck cares? Ultimately, who the fuck cares? This is such a deep-seated problem, and it's going to completely tank the industry. All right. Thanks for coming in, Raiders. I appreciate it. That was a fun rant. Let's go back to my game, shall we? So here's what I was doing. I was working on a battle mechanic system for my game. Mike, I do have a YouTube channel. I do. I will share it with you. Should be in my description, but I'll post the link. Let me see. There you go. I should make it a video. You're right. I'll make it a video. I don't think I have enough people who actually care to hear what I have to say. I don't have viewership. You know, I'm screaming at clouds. There are definitely people here, but most of them actually care. That's usually why they're here and why I get along with a lot of my chat, because usually my chat, the people who stick around are the people who care like I do and who may not agree with me in full, but agree that, you know, we could do better. That's really like the ultimate thing. I would at least like us to try and do better. So, you know, it kind of feels like I'm just yelling at clouds, but at least I get to yell at clouds. It's a good way to get this out of my system, right? Thank you for the follow, Vector. And hey, Guy Ross and Pakir Patrick and Zazada, thank you. We leave tonight. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the follow just now. Yeah, I've got the YouTube channel. I've got Discord. If you guys care, you can jump on Discord. You know, I'm always around to talk about whatever. You can hit me up and talk about anything you want. Let me see if I can get the Discord link here. Just a sec. But yeah, I appreciate the follows. Only one way to get viewership. Yeah, I guess keep going. Yeah. Bro, just worry about big O complexity and everything will be fine. Yeah, this is another problem. This is why I'm not... just a sec, Arvis. I think it's just because I haven't turned on my thing here. The reason why like functional programming doesn't really hit home. There we go. There it is, guys. You can join. Feel free to join. I'm around. You can like chat about whatever. I'm not like active on there because there's not a lot going on, but if you guys start talking, I watch everything that goes on and I hop in sometimes. So it's because the mathematical principles behind programming are sound. Like I can understand why you would have a mathematical principle behind it and why that has some application to why it has some application to the real world in programming. But I don't think you can do that in full. That's where I stop. I don't think that you can say that all mathematical principles in terms have a one-to-one overlap with applicable programming paradigms. There's some level of deviation because hardware doesn't operate in a purely functional space, maybe partially, but not fully. So you have to kind of like separate this fullness of one or the other and try and, you know, like O complexity can give you a good indicators that you're doing something wrong, for example, but it should not be the only measurement you have, because O complexity might not always map to what's actually going on with the architecture that's running your code. It can be a good indicator. Maybe it does actually map on one-to-one, but it's not like the end all be all. We still need to do O complexity, everything functional programming, everything should be a monad, blah, 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 blah. It cannot be this way. That's not how the real world functions. So anybody who makes the claim that it should be all one way or the other, I think doesn't really understand why it cannot be all one way or the other. You have to have some ability to differentiate between what is sound principles and what are applicable principles. There is a difference. There is a distinction there, and you have to care enough to try and figure that out. It is not easy because you have to start at the math level, right? You have to kind of understand what the math is. And let me tell you, as a high school dropout, reading some of the math that goes behind functional programming, it is literally Greek to me because it uses some of the Greek characters and I don't even understand in the context. But you have to at least try, right? If you're going to do that, you're going to have to try, right? So there's got to be some awareness of the concepts and then some care to put in the effort to be like, what is this concept trying to tell me? Does it apply here? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm sorry, I'm missing comments, folks. I don't have a command for YouTube. That's a good idea, Pure. I'll set one up. Think about the RAN. I think it applies heavily everywhere. The experts, good software, and others who use software eventually undo the hard work by sloppy programming and statements like we have X amount of RAM nowadays or X amount of cores. Yeah, it is an easy button. Hardware nowadays makes it easy so that the cost to doing something not as effectively as you would do it without that hardware is easier. You can justify it easier. But I think it's a short-sighted cost view. I think there is a long-term cost view that needs to be taken into account. And I don't think we're taking that into account almost at all, almost ever. Alonzo Church would like a word. Yeah. 100 linear loops is still ON. Yeah, there you go. You don't need math at all. I think you need some math. Like you need to like kind of break down, like you maybe you don't need math in terms of like the weird, like the quote unquote, I'm going to just say quote unquote weird, right? So the quote unquote weird symbols, you don't have to necessarily understand those, but you have to have a mathematical concept. You have to be able to say like, it's almost like a program in your head that you're not executing against a machine. The machine is your brain. So you have to read why on earth is like a monoid, I think. Like why a monoid, I think is what it is. Why would you, what is the principle behind that? I might be picking the wrong thing here, but you kind of get what I mean. You don't necessarily have to read the Greek stuff. You just have to be able to translate that into what is the mathematical concept being presented here? How do I apply it to the code that I'm trying to use, right? Even FP languages have to break their own rules in order to become remotely usable in practice. That's my opinion as well. Functional programming, full functional programming languages, I think do have to break their own rules because the nature of the hardware enforces it. That's my opinion. Literally Greek to the Greek guy. CPUs heavily depend on predictable behaviors, especially when it comes to memory access. Yeah. Do they? I think it's kind of in the statement too. They depend on predictable behaviors, right? Yeah. So, there's something there. Olive plus 1 equals meal. It's true. Olive plus 1 does equal meal. In what direction are you sailing your game making ship? What games do you like? Also, hey, MyTech on YouTube. Kalimera, Heflogos, Tikanis, Posise. Signomi, then thimame pola linika. I don't, but I remember some. There you go. So we leave tonight. So what I'm doing is, it's an old Super Nintendo game. I've been through this a few times, so I try and keep it short just because everyone's heard it a bunch. But essentially, this is my favorite game of all time. You pick one of 6 characters. They each have their own storyline. You build a fleet of ships. You travel the world. You can be a pirate. You can be a merchant. You can be a explorer, find ancient wonders, things like that. It's insanely complex for a Super Nintendo game. The amount of detail that they crammed in here is actually mind-boggling to me even to this day. And I'm like, well, why can't we do this in, I've probably broken my build here, but why can't we do this in, on the browser with C, WebAssembly, Vanilla JS, CSS 3D, like there's just crazy, simple, very much not complicated things, all vanilla. That's what I'm recreating with my own twist. Shader keeper. I'm mostly about making everything immutable, making pure functions, doing transforms, not really about math. I can see the appeal to that, but what in reality, there is not very much that is immutable when it comes to how it is processed. It's the immutable aspect is removed from the actual thing that runs your immutable code, at least to some degree, maybe a very large degree. Awesome. I love Uncharted Waters. Yeah. I'm not on the immutable hype train. I'm talking about in reality. I was part of Forso project that was mostly functional program, like using it, like actually using it. I can see why there would be an appeal there. Like, it's not like I understand why the immutability aspect, when you're programming in it and storing an immutable state, I understand why that is so appealing. But it's unfortunately removed from what's actually going on beyond your perspective in the coding land. And so it ends up being an abstraction that doesn't actually translate to something that's going on underneath. And I find oftentimes what it really does is it ends up adding extra things, adding extra steps and processes and so on to the fundamental, like, overall program that's being executed that you didn't need in the first place if your programmers and your team cared enough to. It's not even really care enough, because when I say that, it makes it sound like, oh, all programmers just don't care. They're all a bunch of lazy bums. So that's a really poor way for me to say it, because I don't think that's actually true. There's a different way to say it that I can't think of right now. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, with enough effort, which I think most programmers are capable of putting in, you can overcome the things that immutability and other guardrails put in, solve for you. And the trade-off is you have to put in that effort, but then you get something that's more realistic to the natural state of the thing that is being executed. That's really what I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to do a dunk on programmers. I'll run that SNES Koei music here. Yeah, Yoko Kanno, right? Yoko Kanno doing the soundtrack for Uncharted Waters. It's still really good to this day. You can't make real-time rendering stuff in a functional style, but for high-level decision state machines, it's great. It has its place. It has its place. Yeah, I just don't. I think a reasonable take would be closer to what you're saying, which is there's a place for it, and then there are places where you shouldn't use it. I think that's a much more reasonable take. And then fine, somebody can come up like me. I would say I don't agree. Like, I don't think immutability is necessary at all, ever. But I can at least respect a more reasonable take. I can at least be like, okay, fine. Yeah, there's certain places where, like, I can see how it would actually make more sense than not to use it. Because you're telling me that there are places where it makes less sense to use it. And that to me is a reasonable take. And I can be like, okay, fine. I don't need to harp on that, right? But when people come at it like, no. This is the only way to do it. You have to be immutable everywhere. An entire language made purely on immutability, and it is the best way to do anything you can think of. Then I'm like, no, bro. Then I am going to fight you. Yeah, then I am going to say that I don't agree with that. Because I don't think that's reasonable. Yeah, so I'm happy with Odin's style of immutable, where it's mainly applied for procedure arcs. Right. It's like a touch of immutability, should you so choose, where it makes sense. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, it's reasonable enough. Fine, leave it alone. Like, it's not doing, like, it's not going to cause massive, serious amounts of harm, doing that. Like, I can completely understand and work with that. Local mutability and ownership semantics are good as an FP stand. Yeah, there you go. Mulroy even, can come at it with a reasonable take. There are times when it's okay, and there are times when it's just not. Just be reasonable. That's kind of why I take such extreme stances, because I don't hear people even taking the reasonable stances. Not a lot of them anyway. And again, exceptions to the rule. Some of them are here right now. There are people who will have a reasonable stance, but there are not enough of them. And I'm hoping that if I take an extreme stance where I'm like, no, we should be writing assembly everywhere, and we shouldn't have functional programming at all. I'm hoping that what it does is it opens the door to reasonable people having an actual argument and putting that out there. That's what I'd like to see, is people actually thinking through about these things and having that discussion, because these discussions are not really being had in the major aspect of, like, what discussions are taking place in the industry as a whole. It's really not these ones, not at least from what I can see. So hopefully by going, like, a little bit farther off the edge, I can spin up the conversations that I really want to see happen. by people who are much smarter than me, by the way. Much smarter than me. Yeah, TypeScript, you can mix the styles as well. You can. I think you can. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll let you guys talk about functional. I'll let you guys talk about it. I'm going to get back to what I should be doing on the stream. But that was a good rant. And I know my rants are extreme. I know it. I do know it. But I really do care. My heart's in the right place. And I just think I've met a lot of programmers who are actually really smart. I said that so stupidly too. A lot of programmers I've met are smarter than they think they are. How about that? How about that? A lot of programmers I've met are smarter than they think they are. And I think if we had more of these discussions and we coaxed out some of the finer details and we had deeper level discussions and we had people doing videos like the one we saw from Thread Interactive or people pushing the bar, it would make these topics more approachable and we could have a much more sensible conversation about where we're going in the industry. That's all. Tell me about the cool 45-degree angle view you've got going on here. Okay, so I've got CSS 3D. So literally what I'm doing is I'm just using, this isn't, it isn't Canvas. It's not WebGPU or WebGL. It's not 3JS. It's literally just a transform perspective on an element, on a div element. So the GPU is being triggered. Without this, it's pure CPU with WebAssembly and div elements. But what I'm doing is, as my mouse moves, I just translate the mouse movement to a transform perspective. So it's just CSS transform. You can see it. What's up with all those errors? These ones, these are because I have images that I'm referencing that I haven't put back into the game. And then this one is because I haven't mapped a keyboard input to a gamepad control function through my WebAssembly yet. So what I'm doing is on the HTML side, I'm listening right now. It's what is it? Key up? Yeah, I'm listening to my keyboard, and then I'm passing in when JavaScript hears keyboard events, it passes it into WebAssembly functions, and the WebAssembly function will. So it's in C here. It's written in C. It'll handle the input coming in from that. I just haven't mapped all of them, and so I will press a button that isn't mapped to the WebAssembly function, and so it'll error out. So I have like little odds and ends that I need to clean up here, and that's what the errors are. My tech. I learned Haskell just to learn Rust. I'm dumb, just based on previous statement. Thanks, Adaraz. By the way, how are you doing, Adaraz? It's been a while since I've talked to you. Good to see you, man. Milroy, I hope you're doing well, man. I didn't say a proper hi to you. Yeah, I know Shreyas was around and he had to go, but that's fine. I tried WebAssembly 2 a long time ago with mscript, and I know today it's directly part of LLVM CLang, which is great. Yeah, I'm compiling using CLang. So that my target is WASM 32. I don't have any standard libraries. I had to rewrite some basic ones on my own here, like a string formatter, some really basic stuff. Because I don't have access to the standard lib. Yeah. I hope the web standards people will come to their senses and finally allow memory shrinking in WebAssembly. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I have no structs in C. I have no pointers, except for these guys for the standard lib, for the character handling of standard lib. Those are the only pointers I have. Everything is a flat array. It's all flat arrays, and I can, it's all statically assigned at game time, at runtime. I do have a dynamic allocator for WebAssembly, should I choose to use it. I have not had to use it yet. I rewrote the game in C, yeah. Ads are about to go on Twitch, so let me just get them out of the way. Sorry to anybody new here. I wish I could turn off ads, but here we go. I'm going to turn on ads and get them out of the way, and then we'll come back to the game. Yeah, Adaraz, it's great. It's great. I haven't done C in a while, so it's been good. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. Okay. So I've got, I have a lot of the big stuff done. It's definitely smart for WebAssembly static allocation. Yeah, static allocation is, it makes it so that I don't have to do weird things with JavaScript that you can do. Like mscripten kind of does that for you. It gives you a way to dynamically allocate memory. It's all built in. Like you don't actually need mscripten. I'm not using mscripten. I just use the like whatever's in the API standards to get my JavaScript to interact with the WebAssembly memory. The same, but mscripten just does it for you. It gives you glue, right? So it predefines, it like pre-writes functions for you, so you don't have to go figure out how you do something when you're interoping between JavaScript and WebAssembly. No, hand roll my own everything. Hand roll the whole 9 yards. And that's the point of this stream is I would like to show that an idiot like me, ask my wife, although my wife's very, very good to me. She probably wouldn't say in public that I'm an idiot, but ask her in private somehow. Don't do that either. Stay away from my wife. If I asked her and then relayed the information, she would say I'm an idiot because I am. If an idiot like me can hand roll a whole bunch of this shit, then much smarter people than me, and there are plenty of them in this space, like we should be able to do way more. I just got divided by 0. Yeah. Hang on. I talked a lot. Let me just take a sip of something here. Just a sec. Here, hang on. Chat, you take over. Chat needs to take over. 1 sec. Let me get something to drink because I talked for a long time. Chat, you take over. Who's in charge? Adaraz, you're in charge. All right, what's going on? We're the captain now. What's he sipping on? It's just I got some Diet Pepsi. Can't abandon the abuse. Feels like so many times. How many times has Spiro rewrote the game already? I did it once in Zig. I did it once in Odin, and this is now in C. And it's almost at parity with Odin. and back in the USSR. What I might do is I might upkeep both the C version and the Odin version. All right. Now that I'm back. What's up, Sergeant? Oh man, Sergeant, you missed the rant. Hey, Sergeant, you okay, hang on. Here's what I'll do. Oh crap. So Sergeant, I remember when you redeemed a rant and then we didn't get it? So Nacor, one of the mods, gave you your channel points back. And as a result of you and Pure wanting a rant, I did a double rant today. It's quite ironic we can never get rid of C. We always try to replace it, but we end up using it anyways. I know, Adaraz. Got to make a video. Yeah, I'm considering it, Pure. So Sergeant, if you don't mind using YouTube, what you can do is here. I'll send it to you. So what you can do is you can go here, and then I think I'll even track it down for you, man. If you really want to, so you'll go to like the what you can do. One sec. Where, Yoshi Hat? Here, you can go to the live, and then you can go back. And if you go back, you can see the rant. But I'm considering turning it into a video anyway, so we'll see what happens. But you can go back to what would have been like maybe 30 minutes in, maybe. When you see the state of JS in there, you'll know you're at the rant point. So I don't want to rob you of your rant points, but now you don't have to spend them either. You can save them for another day. All right. So having said that, let's go back to the game. I got my rant out of the way, and and now we can actually build a game. But we're 2 hours in, and I've barely written a line of code. I think I maybe wrote like one or something. Did we give Chris a shout out? Let's do that. Let's do that real quick. I don't know if we did, but there we go. Okay, so battle mechanics. You did earlier? Thank you, Arvis. Appreciate it, man. Oh, yeah, Yoshi Hat. Sure, I'll do it. It's been a while. Can't even find my Yoshi Hat. Yeah, here we go. How's that? All right. He gets another one, yeah. So here is the issue with, well, it's not really an issue, but here's kind of what I have to try and work through with the ocean battle. So in the old game, in the Uncharted Waters game, what you would do is, let me just not have 3D. So what you would do is you'd have a fleet of ships. So the ships would be like, you'd have a fleet which would contain multiple ships, right? and each ship is customized. It has different stats. It would be made up of like different types of wood, would have a different capacity. You'd have a different number of crew members available to do like the fighting and manning the cannons and things like that. You actually had to like hold cannonballs in your cargo so that's how many cannon shots you had. Like the game was pretty intense how it was made. And so you have a fleet, and the fleet would be like maximum, I can't remember, 10, 12 ships, something like that. So when you went to attack another fleet as you're sailing by, it would take kind of like the overworld. So let's just have a quick look, because I just want to talk this out a little bit so that we can map it into how we're going to accomplish it in C, WebAssembly. So this is like overworld. You're sailing around, and then when you go, like, let's say, oh geez, no, that's not what I want. Well, actually, yeah. So here you go. You've got like, however many people assigned, right? And then, you're in the overworld and you're sailing around, and there you go. You have another like fleet, and then you're going to enter battle. Let's see if I can find a battle. Here. And so this is the turn-based mechanism of the battle. So 2 fleets enter, and in some cases, if you maneuver yourself correctly, you can actually, if you're aligned with a particular country, you can start a battle against someone else. And if someone from the country you're aligned with is right next to you, they will join as your ally. And vice versa, if the other person has an ally, their fleet will join in the battle as well. And then what will happen is all the fleets that are teamed up could be like 2 versus 2, could be 3 versus 1 versus 1, whatever it is. So you're going to start off with, the number of fleets, and then everybody is going to take their turn. And you can do things like manually control each ship in your fleet, or give them orders, and then each ship gets to do like an automated thing, except for the flagship, which is what you're on. You always have to manually control your flagship. And then you just essentially have to maneuver. Let's see if I can find one where they actually move around. Maybe this one. They do a battle. Yeah. They trash talk. And then probably a move here. Yeah, here we go. So the movement is like this. And movement inside the battle, this is too much. We're not going to be able to do this tonight. But what they have, certain portions of the world are affected by particular conditions, like wind, or they're particularly stormy, or the ocean currents like move against the direction that you want to go, things like that. So in the overworld, as you're sailing around, you're going to notice that particular portions of the world have more wind in a particular direction, and so you'll be slower or faster depending on the direction you face, depending on how heavy your ship is and how heavy the fleet is. You're always going to be as slow as the weakest ship in your fleet. All these things factor in. When you enter into the battle, this also has an impact. So these are the areas that you can move to based on all these compounding factors that also affect your movement in the overworld. And so you'll pick and choose where you want to move to, and then you essentially have 2 choices. One choice at the end is, if you align your ship in the right direction, can your cannon, the type of cannon you have, the amount of men, like that cannon shot, are you aligned properly? What's your cannon type? How many men do you have? What's your cannonball type? Things like this. Can they reach a ship nearby? So that's one battle mechanic. Can we fire off a shot? Right? So you're going to be able to fire, move, attack, or duel. We won't do duel, so we won't worry about that. So fire will be fire off a cannon as long as the conditions are correct. You can do the cannon attack before you move, or you can do the cannon attack at the end of your move. So the cannon attack happens. If you're side by side, that's called a man-to-man, right? So it's literally your crew versus their crew, right? So you do an attack that's not a cannon attack, obviously, right? And then this is the duel, where you're randomly drawn cards, and then depending on the cards, the strength, you either like, It's one of 3 options. You have to pick the right options, figure out the pattern of the captain. What is he likely to use? Will he use a parry? Will he use the lash, etc.? So then you try and figure out which one you need to use and its strength, and it has an impact on the duel. That's also too much. We're not going to be doing the duel. But I think what we can get to in a reasonable time frame is at least loading in the ships in your fleet. I already have the fleet mechanics. Let me see here. What's going on? I have the fleet mechanics sorted out because if we look at... am I running something that's... No, it must be me. Okay. So if we look here, I have ships. I have a base ship, like with base stats. And then I have ships that a player or a fleet can have, which have overridable stats from the base ship. So they reference the base ship, but they might do things like if the base ship has a attacking value of 100, maybe this one has 120 because you used some material on it that increased its stat for that, right? Power, speed, things like that. I just kind of made these up. Or maybe I did them from memory based on the game. And then those ships are going to belong to a fleet. So the player's fleet, the enemy's fleet, whichever fleet it is. And then we're going to load up whatever appropriate fleets we need to load up in the battle. And instead of all these Krakens, we're going to be seeing, ideally, we can start with two fleets. Oops. And it'll show like 2, 3, 4, however many ships based on however many ship is in each fleet. So talking that out so far, that kind of makes sense. And we can just start with that and then just have the ships move around. Like, could we even do that? That seems reasonable. I think we could pull that off. The question really is that you want these things to happen in order, because as you saw in the video, there's an order that takes place where all the ships have to like take their turn in a particular order, and there are certain actions that they're allowed to do and certain actions that they're not allowed to do, right? So you have to take that into account. So to some degree, we need something that resembles a finite state machine in C, or if it's not like a full-on finite state machine, something that's like that. And so when we load up a fleet, we essentially have to kind of like figure out what determines which ships get put into which order. We could randomly do it because I do have a hand-rolled custom random number generator here somewhere. Get random. Yeah, it's really simple. So we could just randomly generate some numbers and then pick random, like a random turn order for each ship in the fleet. And then we can work our way up from there so that later on, when we add better code to the game, we can take into account, stats or something that might boost your chance of like being higher up in the turn order, or I don't know, things like that, right? Or just to keep it really simple for now, we don't even need random. We could just go one ship, one fleet, one ship, the other fleet, second ship, one fleet, second ship, the other fleet, like that. Just keep it really simple. Need to make sure this game looks best on CRT TVs. Yeah. So that's probably a much easier approach to get started. So I'm just gonna make a note of that. We'll just do so turn order can just be first ship in first fleet, first ship in second fleet, so on. So you would just iterate fleets. So that way you could have as many fleets as you want. You could potentially have many, like, I don't know, players. Like if we turn this multiplayer, which I want to go back to. So just the battle could be multiplayer, which would be fun to have in the game again. You just go over each fleet and you just do the first ship in each fleet. And then you would go then second ship in each fleet and so on. But what you need to do is You need to track it. Whatever it is that we're going to use needs to track last ship that took a turn. So technically the reason why I'm saying this, technically what you could do is you could just have a flat array, static flat array, max fleet ships in battle. That would be its size. And you would just add in every ship in the right order. And then you could just go over that array. But you kind of don't need it if the logic of the battle is straightforward enough to just go xth or nth ship in fleet. Then you could just have a function that just tracks the last nth ship. And then if this is the nth ship of the last fleet in the series of fleets, then set n to 0 and go to the next fleet. So we don't really need to have a flat array for that. We can just keep it inside of a logic function and it should be fine. But if we wanted to put in a flat array to make it more complex later for extra things, we could do that. So that's like how we would, that's kind of like the first thing we need to do. But then even before this, we have to start putting this in code somewhere because we need some kind of thing that tells us that we need to start this mode. And I have a game mode. I have game modes, which are just enums. And in ocean battle is what we're looking for. We already use scenes effectively. That's what our blackjack game is here. So if we go here, this is considered a scene, and it puts the entire game on the WebAssembly side into, let me just give myself some money. Actually, I think it's this debug. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. It puts the game mode into a scene state. This is technically a scene, and a scene is just a series of things that happens one after the other. So we could treat better luck next time, jabroni. I just want to play this for a second. Let's see what you get. 14. Oh, I'm standing. Oh, I won. Yeah. So then what I should be able to do is use the ocean battle scene or ocean battle game mode. And trigger it. And how would I trigger it? Well, how do I trigger the scene state right now? It's not handle input. It's this. Yeah, so what happens is, let me just think this out for a second. I am the player. I go up to an NPC. I hit the A button. If the NPC is set to trigger a scene, interaction scene, then I trigger the scene. When I trigger the scene, I run an init function, an initialization function. There we go. That's where I'm setting it. And when it initializes, it sets the game mode. So that's not going to be exactly the same thing here. I don't think we necessarily have like a trigger mechanism for a battle. So maybe what I should do, I could add an NPC that if you talk to it, it triggers the ocean battle. I could just add a button that triggers it manually, and then we'll have to figure out how we trigger it when you're sailing around the world. Or I add a special function. Thinking. So what would be, let's say I went back. Let's say I went back to, oh, come on. There we go. So when this is triggered, interaction scene. But I don't think I have a scene for an ocean battle, because an ocean battle is not really a scene. There isn't a predetermined state of events. What do I have as options here? Let me go look. Yeah, I have blackjack, I have general shop, I have dockyard. Okay, so I'm trying to generalize it too much. I can just make a special NPC that just triggers the game mode. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have to make this fancy. I just need like a one-off thing here. So just until I figure out what actually triggers the battle for realsies. So where am I loading my worlds? Here. So I need to create an NPC, and the NPC, when you talk to it, will listen to it if you talk to it, and then if it's the right NPC ID, will trigger an ocean battle. See you later, Lem. Okay. So let me create an NPC. I need to clean up a lot of this code. NPC data. Am I using NPC data? I'm not using NPC data. Right, because I need to create the NPC. Right, NPCs are like base ships. So I need to create it in the game initialization. Therefore, we need this. So we're going to clear the NPC data. These should all be sentry values. Here. Okay. We're going to clear the NPC data. Well, we're going to clear the array that holds the NPC data. We're going to give it a name. We're going to call it NPC Ocean Battle. And then we have to go create that string. Otherwise, it's going to lead to nowhere. So we're going to create the string. It's going to go into the array of strings. NPC Ocean Battle. Okay, and then so now we have access to that. So now what we need is a world NPC. Yeah, and it's based. It's going to use its base from the NPC we just created. So it's going to be get NPC ID by machine name, and the machine name is NPC Ocean Battle. And then we have to clear the world NPC data, the array for it, and then we'll just copy this and we'll just see what values we should set. NPC ID, captain ID is nothing. It's not a captain. Position X and Y. Let's put it in as like 8, maybe 8 and 0. Direction down, and not a captain, not a player, so we'll just remove those. Actually, we'll just remove all these. And then we need is interactable. And we're going to do a special function or a special piece of logic. We won't set the interaction scene. What we're going to do instead is here we're going to go we need to get once we know that we're trying to interact with an NPC name ID, and it's going to be all this, which we can clean up later. It's going to be world NPC ID. So yeah, actually what we want to do is we want to go NPC ID. That's what we need. And it'd be get NPC by machine name, and then it's NPC Ocean Battle. And if NPC, what would it be? I don't know. Man. Sure, Ocean NPC ID versus World NPC ID. Okay, and then if these two match, then current game mode can go into Ocean Battle, and we can start writing a function to do this. But for now, this is like a special use case just for us. So I'm gonna put in a special Ocean Battle trigger remove when actual ocean battles are triggered. And this direction is up, so we'll just leave it here so we don't duplicate a bunch of code. We have to face the up direction, so that means that when I'm moving around here, I have to approach the NPC like up. Otherwise it won't trigger if I come at it from the side or whatever. Okay, so the question now is, let's put a console log. Does this build? Holy crap, first try. First try, it builds. If I come at it from the side, nothing happens. If I come at it from up, yeah. Okay. We screwed something up, but hey. Okay, let's go make sure that we did everything that we need to do for this. I think we did. All right, so then let's go over to here, and then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna trigger it. It's gonna error out a bunch, but I'm gonna pause it so I can read the errors. Try to get length of a string that doesn't exist, huh? It's probably the game mode. Cannot find game mode. Yeah, okay, so it's probably get current game mode. Yeah, here we go. This is why. So the JavaScript rendering mechanism needs to know what the game mode is, and it looks for it by string game mode in Ocean Battle, and then we'll return a string in Ocean Battle. I am not convinced that I've created a string for this. I sure have. All right, let's try it again. We go here and let's refresh. There we go. Ocean battle begins. Pikachu, I choose you. All right. So at this point, we need an entry point into the actual mechanics. So if we go back to the thing that starts it right here. So what we can do is we can kind of treat it as if the same way we're treating a scene. So if you go, if we look at how we're treating the general shop, for example, there's one function. It's just called scene general shop, and you pass in actions for each state of the scene. Like this, states and choices and actions and all that, and then you just have the entire scene wrapped in a single function, and you just pass it in states, and it'll figure out if it should even run the state or move to a new one. That probably makes sense for us too. So we're kind of treating it like a scene. It's just a different kind of scene, I guess. Yeah, because it's not set in stone. Like a scene usually has like a very little dynamic movement, but a battle, it's kind of a different beast. So we'll treat it like a scene in terms of like how we enter it and how we run different states of the battle. But it's not a scene. So we'll go back to game mode in Ocean Battle. So we'll do something like Ocean Battle. Ocean Battle init. It'll end up being like this. What we need to do is we need to write our Ocean Battle states and whatnot. So what we can do, we'll go up here. I'll just Ocean Battle. Maybe just call it Ocean Battle. Maybe that's it. Let me just look at my conventions, world NPC. Like, am I doing anything weird if I could just call it Ocean Battle? I don't think so. Okay, so what do we want? So we want Ocean Battle init. We want Ocean Battle. Okay, so am I going to initialize anything other than fleets and ship order? I don't think so. Let's just think this out. Set up or like bring in fleets and maybe ship order. Maybe we might make the ship order just self-evident. Zero out ship order tracker, bare minimum. Ocean Battle. What would be the next thing? Is there? I feel like I'm missing something before the battle even begins here. Could we just jump to? ship turn, use ship order tracker to take turn. Is there something I'm missing here? Ah, yeah. Yes. Ocean battle placement. Like in the future, maybe we can add like some cool mechanic where you get to kind of choose where your ships are placed, maybe as like, I don't know, something cool, something like something you can do as an additional thing. But we need to manually place ships in world. Oh, this is the other thing. Ocean battle world is not the same as currently loaded world. Future. We need to load a world. The reason is that if you're in the ocean, you're in the overworld. If you're in a battle, you go into a zoomed in aspect of the overworld, which is technically internally, it's a different world. So we actually have to do a load world, like load world or generate world or whatever my function is to load this world right now. We have to run one of those, which means we also have to offload a previous world, save previous world name or something, end of battle, go back to previous world, that kind of thing. We don't need to do it right now. We'll just use the same world and just run through the mechanics, but we will have to do it. So that's going to have to happen as part of this. We manually place the ships. Then each ship can take the turn. Now, this is a good catch-all state, but I don't think this represents the minutia of states that each ship has to take. Nor does it represent the flexibility of the ship to be able to do something like fire cannons first, then move, then fire cannons, attack a ship man-to-man first and move, move and then attack a ship man-to-man. And you can only do, for now we can keep it simple, and you can only do one of the two attacks. Like, you can't fire your cannons, then move, then attack a ship. You have to pick whichever one, and then a move is optionally at the beginning or at the end of your whatever your attack is. So we could boil that down to a separate. We'd have to have a separate tracker, for actions ship has taken, move and attack. An attack can just be an umbrella term for cannons or man-to-man. And then once tracker is full, like both move and attack, then we end turn. On end turn, 0 out tracker for next ship. And then increment ship order. So ship turn can be like this. Now, an action of ship turn can be action attack, need type. So we could just say we could keep pedantic. We could say attack cannons. It's super pedantic, but whatever. And then this one we could say I don't know, a crew. I think that's a better way of saying it. And then if you want to, you can just do one thing. You can do one thing, move, attack, or nothing. And then you can end the turn manually. once you've ended the turn, so okay, this is the thing. We need to have a manual end turn and then a manual end turn confirmation. If you're going to manually end the turn, we better ensure that you actually meant to do that. Then the actual end turn is going to do the things we discussed up here. It's going to zero things out. It's going to go over it's going to go over to the next ship, things like that. You know, it'll be whatever. The downside of doing this is that somewhere we have to track the order in which these things have to take place. We cannot rely on like the rendering mechanism to understand the order and pass in the right actions to WebAssembly. So somewhere, these things have to be executed based on a turn tracker, and it would have to be it'd have to maybe even this state just ship turn just means that you go over these steps one at a time. Every time you call ship turn, goes over each step one at a time every time you call it. That way the rendering function can just call ocean battle function, pass in battleship turn as the action, and then the internalized function knows what the next step of the ship's turn is until you reach the end of the turn. Then you just keep recycling. So that way, no matter what the turn is, you don't have to worry about managing the state of that turn on the rendering function. All you have to do is all you have to worry about is the rendering function being able to read what the turn state is, so that it can render things like when you do a cannon attack, animate the cannon attack, wait for that animation to finish, then trigger ocean battleship turn, etc., etc. I have not been doing any advent of code. Hey Chronix, how you doing? Gonna need more than this because a move attack has several subphases. You have choices and confirmations. Yeah. And yes, so that's that. I guess I was just talking about that. So it'd be at least a substate. It'd be a series of substates inside of a bigger state, and the bigger state is whatever the rendering engine can call. Like I don't care what's actually going on. You deal with the state. I'm just going to tell you to deal with the next thing in the state. Because I've done all my rendering, I've done all my animations, and at any given point, I, as the rendering engine, should be able to read what substate you're in, so that I know what to render. So it's tied in one direction, but untied in another direction. A block and not track the state, but I lose visibility. Yeah, yes. I need to have some level of visibility. Flashbang, push down automata. There's another common extension to FSMs that also uses a stack of states. Stack represents something entirely different. Finite state machines have no concept of history. You know what state you are in, but you have no memory of what state you were in. There's no way to go back to a previous state. So after firing, where do you transition to? Do you go back to running, jumping, ducking, etc.? Vanilla FSMs means that you have to track that, and it's a single pointer to a state, and the new state replaces the previous one, and then the previous one is there in the stack, so you can always reference it. Yeah. That's sort of what I'm doing here. Is I have to I have kind of two different states that need to work together. Because one is a sub of the other, and you have to know where to go back to, and there is a chain. Implement a Pokemon clone worked perfectly. It took like a day to get a full battle. Yeah. So my scenes are already kind of a finite state machine. They're already basically like that. I literally just have states that you go through, and you have to, one state has to be completed before you can move to the next state, and then it tracks your previous global state and takes you back to that when all paths have been successfully completed. So I'm kind of going to copy this because it's essentially an FSM, and I'll add in substates. Ads. Twitch ads. Damn it. Later, my tech on YouTube. Just have like a UI state, push that handle UI on its own, push pop, let the battle state dictate what the next UI state is to push. I don't want the WASM to run a UI state. I don't want WASM to even care about the UI state at all. It should just be literally what state would this be in if the only way you were reading this was text, or if you were just literally running through the function one step at a time. That's the only state I want this to care about. What I want the UI to be able to do is to read into this and see what ultimately, what state is this in? Therefore, what do I have to do? And what should happen is that the WASM should wait for confirmation from the rendering engine that the rendering engine is ready for the next state. That's what I want to do. I'll wait for the ads because there's 30 seconds. Hang on, let me check a message here. Okay, there we go. My only complaint is it's going to be very verbose and code reuse is cool. Yeah, I've kind of given up right now on making things like super compact. Not for any particular reason other than the verbosity is a self hack for me to be very extremely clear for my own brain about exactly what should happen next. That way I can think through a problem step by step as I code it. The repeated things that need to be condensed will make themselves apparent through verbosity. If I start with condensity, then what I do is I have the potential in my brain to leave particular steps alone that I shouldn't leave alone. So to me, it feels easier to start off verbose, pick out, hey, what is like common here that it doesn't need to be this verbose, and then bring it out, because I know that it'll work because I've taken every step of the way individually and it's like really, really clear about what it is. You write in terms of the direction of communication. The render needs to pull, but being able to have a set of states that strictly dictate, hey, you should be showing a message box. Hey, you should be showing an option menu. I already have that in the scenes. You're right. I agree with you. And but I've kept it like only the bare minimum. So for example, in the scene where I need you to make a bet for blackjack. Somewhere in here, I trigger a flag. Where I say, hey, you need user input. It's got to be a user input number. Crap, where is it? It's somewhere in here. I said it somewhere in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Current scene needs numerical input. So that's a flag on the scene. because it's a special type of input. Because, you know, normally what you're going to do is you're just going to like use your like arrow keys on your D-pad or whatever you're using, and then you're going to hit like A, and then it's going to do something, right? But when it comes time for you to select something, or for example, when it comes time for you to do something like putting in a price, depending on like, let's say you're in console, right? You want numerical input, and the way that you receive numerical input on like a Switch or a PS5, maybe you don't want the user to have to go and, you know, push the up button and hold down like the left bumper in order to do like buy 10, buy 100 or whatever. You want to trigger whatever the native input is for that, right? So what this does is it tells the renderer whatever your native input is for numbers, this is a special occasion where you should trigger that input. Same for text. So like for ships in the fleet, I don't think I have it showing, but I have it in the code base. When you go to the dockyard, which is going to be the MPC up on the corner here, you're going to be able to custom name your ship, right? So like the input number, you want a string input, right? You want like a text input, and that's going to be a flag as well. So your scene is going to set that flag to true, and then your rendering engine is going to know, okay, as part of this state in this scene, I need to trigger the whatever the native input is for numbers. Then I'm going to take that value, and the rendering engine knows, well, that value has to go back into the scene so that whatever's running the state manager has that number to read so that it can move on into the next state. So that's kind of like how I'm dealing with that. But those are like special occasions where you need to tell the renderer that it has to do something in particular. So I'm keeping those to like the absolute bare minimum that I can. And I'm not sure that I need to trigger anything special on the battle mechanics, because the battle mechanics, I mean, I guess maybe menus. No, I don't even need to do menus. I don't need to trigger special menus. Menus are triggered by the player manually. So as you're sailing around and you're moving your ships around in battle, you're the only person really who gets any menu options, because the menu options are only relevant to stuff that's going on in your turn. So I don't even need to set a special like show battle menu in this case. It will be like the start button, which is just the user triggers it. So for the time being, I can basically get away with very little, if anything. Like I don't need to add much more. How am I able to read my code? Very well. This is what I use because my brain can't handle colors. When I use a color scheme, my eyes only focus on the colors and not what's actually written, and then I don't understand what I'm reading. It's overwhelming. I know for a lot of people the colors help them to focus on important aspects of the code. It does the complete opposite for me. I need very few colors, and then I can read the whole thing as like a thing. It's just my brain, that's all. It makes a lot of sense. Hey, it makes sense for me. I understand why others don't need the colors, because I can't deny that having colors on the screen, some colors, like the right color scheme can highlight exactly the right things that are relevant to you, depending on what it is you're coding, but like what language and things like this. And the colors can attract you to the right places, and it might make it easier for you to parse it. So like, you know, I don't have anything against it. It's just my brain doesn't work that way. That's all. My brain's messed up. Colors screw me over. Then all I see is colors. I don't see words. I don't see the code. I just see colors. And I even wrote my own color schemes. So this one's green. I have red. I have blue. And then I have gray. Yeah, so depending on like sometimes there's a lot of sun. I get a lot of sun behind me, and I might switch the color scheme because it's nicer to read on my screen, you know, or whatever. So yeah. Okay. You know what? kind of do the same thing when I read articles. I skip over noisy text like names and stuff. Yeah, it can, right? It can. You know, for some people, the colors are too much of a distraction. They definitely are for me. Okay, ocean battle in it. So we're going to take this. We're going to start writing an ocean battle function. By the way, yes, this is one big file. This is all one big file. It's going to be, well, maybe in some cases we might want to return an integer value, and then we're going to have an action, and then we're going to say if action is equal to ocean battle init. We'll just start with that. It's just stupid and simple and lazy. And then we're going to do return sentry, and then we're going to expand on this. All right. Jesus, one less stream to pay attention to. What are you talking about, Arvis? Wait, what are you talking? Are you talking about my stream? I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you're talking about my stream. Who wants to actually pay attention to my stream? I was watching 3 Twitch streams at one time. Oh, is Travis on? Hey, Juan Ma. Thank you for the follow just now. I think Travis is on, isn't he? He was? Damn. Hey, how are you doing, Juan? Good to see you, man. He just ended? Nice. He's like the security guy in the shopping mall watching the cameras. Yeah, that's him. All right, so we do an init. We set the game mode. We okay, what we're gonna need is we're gonna need to set up some structures. Some array data for ocean battle. It should get set up here where all the other ones are. But that's gonna start off annoying because we're probably gonna change it a bunch. It's C. I mean, okay, I think I know what we're going to do. We're just going to do one flat array. I'm not using structs, so I'm not using structs at all. So I don't have that conundrum right now. It's just, I was wondering if I need to have a few flat arrays or just one big one. I think one big one is okay for now. So what we'll have, it's ocean battle data. I don't actually think this is gonna work. Anyways, max ocean battle data. No, max ocean battle size. We'll call it. We'll inline right here for now. Max ocean battle size. So 100, and then we can just do like ocean battle data, and it's gonna be whatever we want here. A bunch of these. So like for example, what we could have is we'll have to set we'll just have to like choose the number of fleets that we can use. So it'd be like fleet 1, fleet 2. See, and I already see a reason why I'd want to have a separate array for this. World, which world are we going to load? I guess we could do like world ID or like world name ID maybe. I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. One of these, like which world are we going to load? We're going to want that. We're going to want current fleet order, like the current fleet that we're in. We want like current ship nth order, something like this. This is terrible, but we're gonna stumble. We're gonna crawl before we walk here. And then ocean battle data size, which will just let us clear the ocean battle data. So a clear would be I is 0 less than ocean battle data size, I plus equals 1, and then we're going to go ocean battle data I equals century. There we go. Hey, Mad C34, thank you for the follow just now. Next year I will probably receive myself as a full stack programmer technician, web developer and apps, front and back. Any recommendations in this world? Okay, so if you want highest chance of getting a job, React. Mulroy disagrees on React. Java? Really? You think it's Java? I mean, it kind of is making a comeback, yeah. Yeah, someone always disagrees, right? Someone always disagrees, no matter what I say. Even if I say the thing everyone wants to hear. No, you're wrong. Not a comeback, it's always been there. I guess maybe it's just been more like quiet and hidden. I mean, Java's not a bad choice. Mulroy's right. Even if I don't think that it gives you highest chance of job opportunities, let's assume that I'm true, like that I'm right. I mean, let's assume that like everyone agrees. It's still not a bad choice. It still gives you a reasonable amount. If Mulroy's right, then it's even better. So that's Java's probably not a bad choice. Overwhelming majority of devs do enterprise Java and C#. There's more Java jobs than any other language, at least in the US. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, so Java's not bad, but are we talking full stack with like, because the web, right? It's got Juan asked about like the web as well, right? I just remember we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. Yeah. Spring Boot. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Copyright strike. There we go. It's over for me. It's over. Copyright strike lyrics on stream. Hit me with a copyright strike. Yeah, so there you go, Juan. Java's not a bad choice. It's either like not a bad choice based on my current knowledge, or it's a really, really good choice based on Mulroy's current knowledge. And I trust Mulroy. He's in the know about these things. So maybe Java's the way to go for you, Juan. The good old days when Happy Birthday was copyright infringement. Everything is copyright infringement these days. Everything is copyright infringement. Copyright infringement is copyright infringement. Someone probably has a patent on patents. Someone probably has a patent on copyright infringement. I'm sure somewhere in the archives of the U.S. Patent Office. Yeah, Java is actually good for getting a job. I learned it when I was making Minecraft server plugins, but I had no idea it was actually good for everything else. Yeah, I mean, Mulroy's not wrong. I use Java. It's been a few years. Professionally, it's been probably 10ish. But when I did use it, it ran on like robotics. It ran on like banking software. It ran on Python was more the mathematical software I wrote. Where else did it run? Damn it, industrial like electrical units sometimes run Java. Like the actual chips themselves, you'll code it with Java. Credit cards and SIM cards run Java. Yeah. Of course, Android. Might not land you a fancy tech job, but it will land a job to get your foot in the door. Yeah, I think Mulroy's onto something here. On over 8 billion devices. Yeah, it's massive. It's huge. So more than just Minecraft. Definitely a good one to learn. For sure, one way or the other. I should dust off my Java skills and stop ranting and making games on stream and actually go get a job. On over 8 billion devices, by the way. Yes. Arc, by the way. Yeah. Get a job, you bum. I know. So once I'm in it, what I need to do is also track whether it has been initialized. And if it's been initialized, what we're going to do is go ocean battle data and then ocean battle data initialized, and we're going to set that to true. And then we're only going to run this action if ocean battle data initialized is equal to false. Or actually, no, it's equal to the sentinel value. Otherwise, we're going to run a bunch of other actions. This needs to be its own function. We don't want to be clearing every time we run ocean battle. Otherwise, we'll never get anywhere. So we're going to do it as its own function. Clear ocean battle data, and then it's going to go like this. And we only want to clear ocean battle data here. Maybe we might want to clear it outside of this or in special circumstances. So that's why it's a function. I've had to do that with scenes. And yeah. Once we have it initialized, its own array, to do set. Oh no, we don't want it in here. So I guess what we'd want to do is go like each step. We'd want each step to be enumerized. We want it to be enumberized. And the next step would be pick world to load. We're not doing that right now, so I guess we skip it. Then the next step after that would be set up fleets or something along those lines. So could we do ocean battle, like we'd have to put this into the ocean battle setup fleet maybe. I gotta think about this because Yeah, no, it's a substate of a state, which is the setup state. Okay, we'll fake it for now. Ocean battle setup fleet. I guess what we can do is like fleet 1. Will literally just be what is the fleet data? Where's my fleet flat array? Fleet data like this. It'll literally be fleet data 0. We could even just point. We don't even need this. We just need 0, and then we just need 1, and then we'll reference via g fleet. Come on, fleet data whatever x. Okay, so we'll get all our fleet data that way. We'll get our ship turn order, so we can do like I guess we don't need that. We'll go like ocean battle setup ship turn order, and it would be something like fleet order ID. It would be 0 to start with, and then ship nth, or maybe like nth ship ID, or maybe nth ship order. I don't know, nth ship maybe, something along those lines. It'd also be 0. And so then what we would do is we iterate over fleets, grab nth ship. That is the ship's turn currently. And turn increment nth ship if all fleet nth ships are done their turn. Essentially like that. So we got to set all that up, which means we have to store it somewhere in the data. So this would be like a setup action with sub actions. So we can break it down. We could be super pedantic. We can break down each setup action. That's fine. We can sort that out in a minute. And then once everything is set up, then what we do is we place placement, this one, and we're going to go over iterate all ships in all fleets and place them. I guess for now, because we have one world, just place them manually in manual coordinates. Just do that. We can randomly pick places after, because randomly picking places means that we have to take into account, like, has something already been placed there, like another ship? Is this even a place that a ship could be placed in? Like maybe it's a piece of land or something, things like that. We'll skip all that for now. Let's go grug brain, super simple. Okay. And then once the placement is done, then we just essentially set the state to, it's going to be ocean battle ship turn. And that's kind of like our catch-all, like a ship is taking its turn. And then in here is where ship turn stuff happens. Action, attack crew, cannons, move. I guess I don't have move in here. I got to put move in here. Let me go do that before I forget. Action, attack crew. We've got to be here. I think I copied it. I did. There we go. Move, crew, cannons, and turn. What else do we have? Ocean battleship turn. Manual end turn, and then manual end turn confirmation. Essentially these. So inside of this, we want these things to happen. When the ship ends its turn, then we need to go. We need to iterate to the next ship. That should happen in turn action end turn. That's where it should happen. So in here, go to nth ship of next fleet. If all fleets are already done, go to set nth equals 0, go to fleet 0, fleet equals 0, nth ship turn. No, nth is plus equals 1. That's what it is. Nth ship turn, and then continue the cycle. Okay, so now the question is, who wins, right? So do I always pseudocode in comments? Yes. I almost always pseudocode in comments unless I really know what I'm going to do. Because it's just a self hack. If I write out the code that I think I need in advance, I paint myself into a corner and then I have to rip out a bunch of code. I get too far ahead of myself. It's a self thing. And then I build out all, functionality, and then I realize that I went the wrong path. Then I have to rip out the functionality. That's annoying as hell. I end up making mistakes. So if I pseudocode in the areas that I need to do my next few steps, it helps me to be a little bit more clear or concrete on what I actually want to do, and I should be able to flush out serious issues much sooner. But you don't have to do that. Like it's just a way for me to get through thinking through the process of what I'm going to code. So now who won, right? So when we get to the end, we need to figure out who won and what is the win determination. So I guess it could just be, I guess for now, 2 ways to win. One would be a surrender, and another would be all ships are defeated. So during the attack, during these 2 attacks, every time we do an attack, no. Well, yeah. Okay. So every time we do an attack, every time we attack, see if ship we attacked is destroyed. And then there's going to be like, I don't know, some kind of like destroy function, something like that, like a destroy state maybe for the ship, something along these lines. And then what we need to do is, if destroyed and all other fleet ships are destroyed, you win, or the opponent wins, right? It'd be like that. The other way to do it is at any point in the ship turn, you can have, so we'll have to add this, ocean battleship turn surrender. And so see, this is what I mean. Totally get that. I should try it sometime. Seems valuable. Leave them in afterwards. No, I usually take them out as I actually implement the code. Unless I feel like there's some value to having it there so that if I look at the code again later, I can understand why I did it. It's like, for me, it's a way to ensure that I have comments first. And then I can keep the comments that I think are valuable, as opposed to code first. And then by the time you've got through the code, your brain is already thinking beyond the code you've written. You're thinking about the next set of things you need to code. So it makes it difficult for me to remember, hey, I should go back and leave comments on this thing I already did. I kind of don't want to do that. I get lazy a little bit. And I'm like, no, I don't want to leave comments for this. I've already coded it. Who cares? If I do it first and I think through my actions, just a little bit, then I can choose to keep it in, and I can think of it as it's kind of like a first class citizen rather than an afterthought. So I tend to remove a lot of my comments unless I think they're valuable. So like right now, this is a good example of me thinking through everything and then realizing that I didn't include the win condition. I thought about everything that happens during the gameplay, but I didn't think about what happens during the win condition. So I'm already to the point where all of these actions that I've already written in the enum are not going to cover every scenario that I just like pseudocoded. So I'm glad I didn't go through the effort of like coding it all out proper, because then I would have to go back and lift some of the code now that I've realized I've missed something, because I thought about it first and pseudocoded it. So it's just a self, like, it helps me to get through it a bit better. It seems like it takes more time up front. For some people it would, but for me it saves me time because of the way my brain thinks. So then if we surrender, then it's just an auto you win, or whoever wins. And then you'd have to clear clear the battle and go back to whatever you were doing before, So this is questionable, because at the end of the battle there might be other things that, as a consequence of actions taken in the battle, so this will be future. I'll move this to another location, this comment, but it'll be like if your fleet isn't full, take ships from opponent fleet. Display all opponent fleet ships cargo. Take what you want. Right? Things like that, which are all still technically part of the battle, but it's like, it's post battle once somebody has won. Time up front is the missing piece these days, though, like we talked about last time. Yeah, it is. I think it is the missing piece. It's time up front. Saves you a bunch of time down the road. As long as you're like, as long as you can, like, really think about why, like, how to spend that time up front and why, like, make it meaningful. The time up front can save you a boatload downstream. Okay. Unfortunately, I did not realize what time it is. That rant earlier took way longer. So I'm gonna have to end the stream in a few minutes. So why don't I just like wind down the stream then and just chill for a sec. But at least we know kind of what we need to do here. The ocean battle, in terms of like the steps we need to take, is coming together. And then what I have to do is I have to kind of separate out, maybe hold 2 or 3 different arrays for the ocean battle instead of one big array, for individual aspects of the battle. And I need to write up a few of the states in the battle, so it's more clear about what's going on at each step of the battle, which at this point is more like it's like sludge work, like it's like shovel work. It's not we're escaping the higher architectural view of the ocean battle and getting more into like, now we just got to implement a bunch of these, and the devil will probably be in the details. I should take a moment, since I'm winding down. Let me just think about how the rendering would work. So once we're in this scene, I already have a place here where I listen to what scene we're in and what state. Yeah. So this is technically a scene. Import is a scene. Here we go. We're in a scene and it's either blackjack or general shop. So we'll just add another one of these scenes. No, it's not a scene. Sorry. It's game mode. It's straight up a game mode. Yeah. So it'd be here. It'd be else if game mode is in ocean battle. We can actually like ocean battle rendering here. So this is legit. So once we're in here, what we have to do is trigger each step of the ocean battle, like the setup functions, like the setup actions. And the renderer, which in our case is the browser and JavaScript and DOM, will tell WebAssembly, I have properly rendered this action. So if the action was set up the fleet, then yeah, okay. So maybe we do want to break down the states. Here's why. So the first action, let's say the first action is set up the fleet. Which fleets belong in this battle? And then let's say the rendering engine, like here, we decide what we're going to do is we're going to have like a top menu bar, and it's going to show the fleets. And we render that, and then we go, yep, we've rendered it. What's the next thing? And it's going to be set the ship turn order. And then the rendering engine goes, great. We're going to show on the left-hand side, going like vertically down, we're going to show the order of all the ships. Or maybe we'll highlight each ship and put a number above them on like the top left corner of whatever the ship was in that order, right? We'll do the renderer. And then you just keep going like that, right? So this, I think, makes sense. We're going to have to break it down. Oh, right. I have to set the, I have to forward declare. I have to forward declare this because I use it before it's defined. Forward declarations. Oh, there's more errors. Okay, I'll deal with that after. Now let's deal with it now. These seem easy. It's just stupid mistakes I made. Yeah. 2 errors. What is it? Let's slice. 4, 5, 9, 8. Oh, it's these things. Yeah, okay. And 612. Oh, I have to semicolon end this. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Everything's running fine. Yeah. So I'll have to be pedantic about the actions for now, and then what I can do is I can condense the actions inside of the ocean battle. Once it works the way I want it to, then I can figure out what are the common aspects of the entire ocean battle function here that don't need to be so pedantic, and we can kind of muck about with it. But then yeah, our rendering engine can literally just say, what are you doing right now? Let me animate this, and then once it's animated, then it can tell the ocean battle function, yep, I'm good. Do whatever you want to do next. And we'll just keep calling the same action, like the same general action. It'll just be this thing: ship turn, take the ship turn, take the ship turn, take the ship turn, and then render the next thing that happens. The tricky part in the rendering will be the difference between ships that are being, oh man, I'm glad I thought through this, because I didn't think about this before. Ships that are controlled by the player have to have manual player inputs. NPC ships are automatic. I need to put in like a to do for render. The issue the issue that will happen is that the rendering engine needs to understand when it has to ask the player to make decisions in the battle, like given the current ship and the general radius about which you can move, where do you want to move? What is the action you want to take? Do you want to attack, Which ship do you want to attack? Things like that, right? So the rendering engine needs to know that, because the rendering engine is in charge of rendering the UI that the player needs to interact with in order to make those decisions. And then once those decisions are confirmed by the player, then they have to get shipped over to the WebAssembly side. And so here we have to read those decisions and confirm that they are valid. So we actually even need validations. Maybe we don't do validations for now, because we can just assume that you're going to make a valid action, because the rendering engine first has to check what valid actions are available to you. So there's kind of an implied validation upon which valid options are available. So we could get away just for a little while without validating the actual input, but we still need a way to say, we still need WebAssembly to say, it could go we could go either way. Either we let the rendering engine determine when the player is taking their turn, or we let WebAssembly tell the rendering engine. I'm not sure that it matters, honestly. So we just got to pick one and go with it. And then the rendering engine needs to provide inputs for the player. And then anything else outside of that is automatically updated in the player's view, without them taking an action. The only confirmation that would happen outside of the player's turn is, I'm going to animate that an opponent ship moved or fired at you or something. And then you just hit confirm that happened. Something like that. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm building out the states in here. So, yeah. Okay. All right. I have my work cut out for me. Yeah, I'll spend a few more minutes and then I'll call it. How the hell is everyone doing? Guys, all good? Thanks for the follows and subs today. I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully it was worth it. I don't know. I don't think I'll be back on tomorrow. I'm not sure I'll be back on Friday. I have to get through some work, some contract work. But I am highly likely to be back on the weekend. Quite likely. Still processing the rant. Yeah, doing good. Beating my head against the wall from OpenGL. Oh, OpenGL. The gift that keeps on giving. Welcome to the club. Yeah. I'm surprised that we don't have a very standardized shader language, which I think would solve a lot of problems if we could just agree to something that's like the standard. Potentially, at least it would solve some problems. Maybe not a lot, but it would definitely be better. Yeah, Arvis, we basically do. What is it? I don't know what it is. What is it? I'm like out of actual ignorance. Vulkan was meant to do that with Spurvy. Isn't that not around anymore, or isn't that like not used or something? Like it was a thing, but it's no longer a thing, right? Am I right? XKCD 927. It's meant to be a front end standard. Okay. Okay. I honestly don't know much about it, so that's on me. Um, but yeah, sort of like saying LLVM IR bytecode is a universal language for developing in. Yeah, okay, I think I follow now. Um, I see. It's not exactly what we're hitting at. And now having two options, HLSL or GLSL, seem like low enough number of competing standards that it's not worth getting bent out of shape over. Um, but wait, it's like Java bytecode. Oh man, I have to think about it for a second because there's a reason why you have compatible languages there like Scala, Kotlin, etc. Yeah. The state of shader languages is not the state of JavaScript. Good point. GLS lang that's supposed to be de facto, but people already have hangups. Um, could part of the problem be that you have a different shader language that's kind of it's not universal? Is that maybe like what I'm thinking, but I'm not smart enough to articulate that? Like where a particular shader language only exists for like a small circle of things, and it does not have cross transferability to another circle of things, and that's kind of the problem. Or am I out to lunch here? For what it matters, you have a shader language specific to each graphics API vendor, so OGL and DX. The problem is that GL dictated that vendors could compile shaders themselves because we had DirectX and OpenGL with differing things. Okay. Okay, so like kind of so just a little bit what I was talking about, but there's some nuance there. So now SpearV is meant to be a way to precompile headers, shaders. SpearV is around, right? Like it hasn't like gone away. It's still there, right? Because for some reason in my head I'm like it's gone, but maybe I'm wrong. GPU drivers compile shaders. SpearV was meant to give more control to programmers, right? Which allows anyone to develop their own shading language, again, like how LLVM works, right? Yeah, SpearV still is a thing. Okay. So is there like some kind of like adoption issue with SpearV? Like, um, I just don't know. Like, is there a reason why SpearV just isn't the thing? Oh, competing standards thing. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. Well, Vulkan is still kind of going through churn too. There are lots of tools that use SpearV. I think even DirectX can use it, but I don't think Metal can. I wonder if Metal could be like, maybe that's also a blocker. I think even Kronos has encountered the design by committee issue. I think Kronos has, yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they have. Let me find somebody to take us to move you guys all over to. Building a PC. That might be fun. JS project. Talk about programming. Go view microservices. Recreating my childhood MMO from scratch. Oh, what's he using though? What's he using to do it? I see PowerShell immediately. Oh, he's writing his own shaders? What the heck is he doing here? WebRTC ICE? Is he using WebRTC for this? Damn, we might maybe we'll give him a raid. That's actually kind of cool. Let's just see. Let's give it a try. Seems cool. Spivvy doesn't have developer-friendly lang like JLSL. You compile your own to Spivvy, which then outputs the actual binaries. Yeah, because OpenGL set a standard and everyone got in line back in the 3DFX with a handful. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Well, here I'll start the raid. Listen, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for being here. That was a hell of a fun stream. We did manage to get some things done, even if it was just pseudocode. Okay, we did. Thanks for letting me rant and participating in that. Like I said, there's a very, very high chance I'll be on again on the weekend. I'll try and get on sooner again. Try and make it consistent if I can, but life is life, so I'll do my best. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good night, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Peace out, everybody.